Starting everything on time. It's now 7 o'clock. I'm Carl Hokinson, I'm the mayor, and tonight is going to be one of three meetings about the upcoming Revaluation. Okay? We are the gentlemen that will be doing it. We'll be setting up the next dates. One will be on the weekend for the people who work during the week. We will do it on hopefully like a Saturday morning, like 10 o'clock. So, again, it's one of three. And the third meeting we will do just before like the time frame. All right? I'm glad to see a lot of people here. Also, the meeting is being televised on TV 34. And it's also being televised live and on the website of the Concerned Citizens and the Roselle Park News. So you'll be able to see it, or if not, you can tell your friends to take some of the, the information and see it. What I would like tonight, we're going to start out with the gentleman, the young lady here in the green is Gail. She is our tax assessor for the Borough of Roselle Park, who has been helping me. She is my right hand when it comes to this. So she's going to, introduce everybody, but I just want to set down some ground rules, okay? Everybody will get a chance to speak. And what I'm asking for is ask a question, keep it short and simple, because if everybody gets 5 minutes with times 40-something people, we're going to be here at midnight, but that's okay with me. I mean, I'll stay here all night. And I'll stay the next meeting and the next meeting to get the information right to you, the people. Because as you know, 4 years ago when this was brought up, no sooner than it was talked about, the flyer went out with a whole bunch of lies and everything else. Okay? We've got the rumor mongers out there. They just sit home and do nothing but cause panic. We're here tonight to quell that, to give you the right answers, because the last 2 years people were coming up to me, asking me certain questions. I didn't answer because I don't have the answer. And I'm not going to give out false information. So tonight, we have everybody here that's going to answer your questions, tell you face to face, and hopefully it'll put your mind at ease. Just to start, the company that we hired, as you know, the state of New Jersey does this, and we have to hire people from the state of New Jersey who do this. There's only about 5 companies that do it, and we picked a company that we thought was the best. We also picked a company that has about 20 people in it, and 4 or 5 of them are bilingual, that they can speak the Spanish for you Spanish homeowners and anybody else. So we have that. Number 2, the company submitted all the employees that will be doing the work to our chief of police, to our police department. Our police department did a complete and full background check on these individuals, and everyone came back clean. My borough clerk in the back, she is giving the people who will be coming to your homes an ID. That's from the Borough of Roselle Park, giving their name, their business, and if you want, we'll also give you the car that they will be driving, pulling up. They'll get more into the appointments and the times. But they've been thoroughly checked. They came back negative, positive, good. Okay? So to put the fear about that, because there are stuff, and believe me, when in doubt, please still call the Roselle Park Police Department, 245-2300, and I asked my council people who are in the audience tonight, if you're coming, call your councilman and say, look, I'm a little nervous, and I'm asking my council people and myself to make ourselves available to go with them to come see you. Okay? So tonight, with this, I'm going to turn it over to my tax assessor, Gail, and please, quick, short, and we'll take it from there, okay? Yep.
The For those of you who don't know me, my name is Gail Scaglione. I'm the tax assessor. I've been the tax assessor in Roselle Park since 2012. Basically, first of all, I just want to applaud Mayor and Council for approving the revaluation. I want to thank Doreen, I want to thank Ken, Rich Huxford, everyone that helped all of us get to this point. This is a good thing. It's not a scary thing. Realty appraisal will assure everyone this isn't a scary thing. It needs to be done. It's been a long time coming, and the results hopefully will be positive. Not will be, they will be positive. What I will do now, introduce Neil Rubenstein, Mark Duda from Realty Appraisal Company. They will basically give a presentation, just kind of let you know what's going to go on, and then we'll have a question and answer period, like the mayor said. Basically, if you have any questions.
Show the ID.
You want me to
Show the ID.
show the ID? The one you gave me? This one? Okay, this is one. This is one of the IDs. There's several IDs that the inspectors will have. This is one of them. It has the genuine Roselle Park raised seal on it. It'll have Borough of Roselle Park. It'll have their picture on it. This is what they will have when they come to the door, in addition to other various IDs that Neil will explain when he gets up here. But they will have this. This is issued by Doreen, our borough clerk. It'll have their picture, and this will assure that, like the mayor said, all the checks, background checks were completed. These guys are good, and they check out, everything's going to be fine. So I just wanted to show you that, and now I'm going to hand it over to Neil.
Thank you. Good evening. My name, as introduced, is Neil Rubenstein. I am one of the owners of Realty Appraisal Company, a company that was graciously hired to perform the revaluation. Tonight, I'm going to give a little presentation on our company, who we are, some of the processes, and then I'm going to introduce Mark Duda from my company to go over the inspection process, which is the one that's going to affect most of you in the near future, and one that obviously needs explanation. Our firm was started by my grandfather. We are the oldest firm in the state of New Jersey. We did our first revaluation in New Jersey in 1951, and since that date we've done 450 revaluations and reassessments solely in the state of New Jersey, never outside of the state. We employ 5 state-certified appraisers. That is a designation that is required for anybody that appraises real estate now in New Jersey. Several certified tax assessors. I happen to be one of them. I am actually a tax assessor in a small town in Bergen County. And the goal of the revaluation, or one of the goals, is to treat people fairly. We're going to do some invasive things. We're going to ask to go into your home, look around, collect information, and it's a team effort. The effort through Gail, the assessor's office, the building department, our company, you, and at the end of the day, the goal is to fairly assess every property in Roselle Park, every vacant lot, every home, every commercial property. We're going to look at every single property. It has been a very long time. The last revaluation in this town was in 1981, 34 years ago. So things can happen in that. Neighborhoods can change. Any one of numerous items on a property. In many areas, they happen a little more frequently. Union County, this is the first one that's happening in a long time, and we have high hopes that there are more to follow. I happen to live in Union County, so this is the first time in a long time that I didn't drive 2 hours to a night meeting. I drove 20 minutes. Our main office is in West New York in Hudson County. We have a satellite office in Monmouth County. We have a website that will be available to anyone here that will show the status of the revaluation from beginning to end. We want everybody to know there's nothing that we hide. Everything is done in a transparent fashion. Mark will explain the inspections, but just to touch on one thing, we know we're asking a lot to come knocking on your door, so the identification is really to protect us, protect you, and the police will know exactly where we are when we work through the town. Right now, with the fact that it's been 34 years since the last revaluation, the ratio between the assessed values in this town and the market value is 27%. What that means is that typically the homes are worth about 4 times more than their assessed value, or they're worth much more than the assessed value. That is one of the reasons, one of the main reasons you do a revaluation. It's going to affect some people's assessments. They're all going to go up. I don't think there'll be too many properties that don't increase in assessment at all, but the relationship to the current assessment is really the net effect of what's going to happen to your assessments. I'm going to introduce Mark now to talk about the inspection process, and then we'll talk about valuation at the end, and then we'll open up to the most important part, and that is questions and answers. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mark Duda. I'm the field supervisor. I will be handling the day-to-day operations of the inspectors in the town. One thing I wanted to mention before I get into the inspection process is that on your borough website, right on the front page, there's also going to be a link directly to the reval information on our website, so it should be easy for everybody to find. So in order to accurately appraise any property, we need to see it. In order to accurately appraise your home, we need to go inside the home and see what the interior conditions are, what the finishes are. And so, again, we realize it's asking a lot, but in order to get an accurate appraisal of a property, it's important that we see it. What's going to happen? What will happen is somebody will show up at your house. We're going to begin inspections in the next week or so. They don't call first. Okay, so somebody will just show up. We canvass. If you're not home at the time we come, we leave a doorknob hanger. Looks like this. It says, we were here basically, sorry we missed you, we will be back, and it leaves a time and date that we're going to come back again. It also says if that time and date doesn't work for you, here's a phone number, give us a call and schedule an appointment. Okay, so if you're not home, you don't miss out. We do make 3 visits to the property. The first time we visit and you're not there, we leave this blue doorknob hanger. The second time, if we haven't heard back from you, we will leave the red doorknob hanger and just let you know, listen, we've been here twice. Please give us a call to make an appointment for the interior inspection. And so hopefully we will get entry to as many houses as possible. Typically our entry rate is over 90%. It is very important that we see the interior of the home. One ID was shown earlier, that was his town ID. Right here, so the clerk's office will issue us each one of these. We also carry 2 other forms of ID. One is my firm's ID, which is displayed on the outermost layer of clothing. Typically it's on a lanyard or it's on one of these clips, as well as this letter that comes from the borough. It's on borough letterhead, it has our picture on it, and it also lists up here a phone number for police verification. Okay, so even if somebody has all 3 IDs, if you're not comfortable, by all means, please verify. You can call Gail, you can call the police department. They have us all on file. They'll have photos of the guys that are going around, the make and models of their car, and their license plate numbers. So we want you to be comfortable with us going inside. Another point, the folks that are going into your house, they're not tax assessors, they're not appraisers. They're data collectors. We have them in there collecting very specific data that's going to be used in the appraisals of your home. So on the exterior of your house, what they're going to do is measure the structures. We have them measure and sketch the structures from the exterior. When they come in your house, they're basically counting rooms, checking to see if the basement's finished, noting various finishes. What are your countertops made out of? How recently were the kitchens and baths done? They may ask you a few questions. If there's anything that you think affects the value of your property that you want to point out to the inspector, by all means do so. The interior inspection probably takes about 10 minutes. One additional note that's a common misconception is all properties are appraised as of October 1st. So the date you have your inspection does not affect, what your appraisal is relative to other folks in town. So all the valuation date for everybody is 10/1/15. So if you're inspected next week, or if you're inspected in August, we're going to put the values on as of October 1st. So when we're inside your house, will not affect your valuation, essentially. Okay. Once we've completed those inspections, we're going to mail you a value letter, and we'll ask you to come to one-on-one meetings. Typically, the first people that call us for the one-on-one meetings are folks who didn't let us in the house, and I'll kind of hand it off to you.
I needed to rest for a few minutes. Just a couple more things about the inspection process, which you do these a lot. You're always sitting there thinking of something that you forgot to say. An uncomfortable topic is whether you have to let us into your home. There's no law that says you have to let our representative in to assess your home. But what we would say is if you want an accurate appraisal or an accurate assessment, that's the best way to achieve it. When we go to your home, we do leave these cards. Sometimes people do get in touch with us, sometimes they don't. But at the end of the day, if we can't get in, we don't know what's in your house. We are not there's no data in this municipality. We're starting with a blank piece of paper. So it really is in your best interest to let our inspector in. It's a very quick, painless process. Most of the time spent on the outside of the house, measuring it and detailing all the notes on the outside. The interior, as Mark said, is a very quick process. In the event that you don't let us in, you say, listen, if your child is home sick or there's an issue, that's not a problem for us. We'll give you a business card, we'll leave a number, we'll take your number, and we'll check back. We do want to get in because we want to give you an accurate assessment on your property also. It's a two-way street. If we just are not allowed in ever, then we have to estimate for highest and best use. By law, we are allowed to estimate what's inside the house. It's much easier to do it when you're inside the house. So typically what happens with those is we estimate on the high side. We don't want to penalize property owners that are forthcoming, allow us to do the inspection, get an accurate assessment by putting a lower assessment on a property that we did not get into. So when the valuation component is done, as Mark was beginning to state, we're going to mail a letter. You should have all gotten this letter by now, the letter introducing the revaluation. We mailed it about 2 weeks ago, 2 days ago. The letter that you're going to get when we're done is the much more important one. It's the one with your new calculated assessment. And in that letter are instructions on how to reach out, make an appointment, and come and sit down and talk to us one-on-one with a representative from our company about your assessment. If we did not get into your home, the first thing we're really going to say is, listen, you didn't allow us in. Let's come right, we can do it right now. We can do it this afternoon. Let's go out, take a look at the property, and correct what may or may not need to be corrected because we didn't get in. Another common misconception of a revaluation is that it's the town trying to collect more taxes. That is not the case. A revaluation is what's called revenue neutral. It's a redistribution of the tax burden. The budget for the schools, the county, the municipality, those are struck. They've got nothing to do with the revaluation. We're reassessing every property, and we're going to redistribute that burden. Typically, the old rule of thumb was a third go up, a third go down, and a third stay the same. My grandfather coined that phrase. I don't actually think it's that true now. We don't know what's going to happen in Roselle Park. We're at the beginning stages of the process. When we're done with every appraisal and every assessment, we'll be able to predict exactly what the outcome of the revaluation is. It's basically two things: your current assessment and your new assessment as compared to the average increase or the average assessment in Roselle Park. But if the budget is $50 million, it's $50 million. It just takes the pie and levels it out. There's not one additional dollar of taxes that is collected. I've done this for 32 years. I usually get murmurs when I state that, but it's basically math. The assessments, the budget, and that drives the tax rate. And in this town where you have a ratio of about 25%, if the assessment, your assessment goes up 4 times, and they all go up 4 times, assuming the budget is stable, the tax rate is going to drop 4 times. The tax rate is adjusted in accordance with the total rateable base. So to make the math easier, if all the assessments double, the tax rate would be cut in half. And again, we don't know that until we're done. My notes. The notification letters will be mailed slightly after November 10th. That's a state statute. Date of value, as Mark stated, is October 1st. So when we're done with all the appraisals, they've been reviewed and approved by your tax assessor. We will send out that letter. Those hearings will likely be in this building. They are informal. It's not aggressive. We don't take offense to people coming in and sitting down with us. At those hearings, we will have a tax map with all the sales plotted on the map. We'll have a color book with every photo of every property that's sold in the last 2 years to show people. Some people say, you know, I have no idea what my house is worth, and there are people out there that know exactly what it's worth. Part of those hearings are to try to educate you and try to explain the process at the end and go over how we actually calculated the assessment. After that step, if you're still dissatisfied, you don't think the assessment we placed on your property is fair, then the next step would be to file an appeal, a county tax board appeal in Union County, and then the final and last step would be filing it to the tax court. But there are 3 chances. I urge you, if you to take us up on the first step. It's the easiest, it's local, and it's part of the process to come in and go over your property record card, which is the form that we're going to place all of the information about your homes on. And with that, I think we could move.
I have one question. If you could address the time schedule as far as when they can expect the inspectors to come in the morning, afternoon.
The guys will canvass during business hours. If you're not home, typically the door tag will say a time they'll be back. They generally know you weren't home during the day, and it'll say we'll be back today or tomorrow between 5 and 7, 5 and 6. Generally, it has an hour or 2 window. We don't work on Sundays, so it's Monday through Saturday. And we generally don't come by very late, so I wouldn't expect anybody, too far past 7 or 8 o'clock, unless you ask for that and the inspector's willing to accommodate it. Sure. One further remark on the inspections is, when we perform the informal hearings, typically the people that do want to sit down with us the most are the people that didn't let us in. A lot of times they want to see what we put them down for and figure out if we guessed high enough or not. We don't hold an informal hearing unless or until we do the inspection. So we like to make that clear sort of up front. The informal hearings are a chance for us to go over the property record cards with people that did allow the inspection.
Okay. Basically, what we will do is we have a microphone. Is that on? We have a microphone up here. If anybody has any questions, I'd ask one at a time. You come up to the microphone and ask your question, and we'll do our best to answer them to your satisfaction.
Come up, sir. Everybody wants to just line up behind them?
I'm going to answer the easy ones, and Mark is going to do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to ask, what is this reevaluation really for? Really? Everybody knows that there is one person in this room, their taxes are gonna go down. Nothing ever goes down, okay? This town is riddled with potholes, okay? Colfax Avenue has a speed bump in it. It's ridiculous. You want, I believe that the money in this town is really mismanaged, and now you want more to mismanage. And our taxes are all gonna go up for this reevaluation, and that's what it's for. That's what I believe it's for, and that's why everybody else is here, because that's what they believe. Our taxes aren't going down, they're going up. And the 2% ceiling that the governor imposed, this is just a way to get around it. Thank you.
Well, I guess I could try to answer that, but a revaluation, people go up, people go down. For the past 32 years, the people that go down, you typically don't hear too much from them because they are happy. But as I stated, it's simple math. Not everybody's taxes can go up in a revaluation. There would never be one. Last year, my firm did 14 of them, and I don't know if anybody in the room owns property in any other town in any other county, but we're not here, I'm not here to raise everybody's taxes. We're here to reassess everybody's property, and in that, people are going to go up and people are going to go down, and that's a fact.
You stated that the evaluation, the sheet will be mailed at a later time after the inspection is done. Now, when the inspector comes in, he must have a sheet with him, right, to check off?
Yes.
All right. Now, is that the same type of sheet that you're going to mail out to us? It is.
No, I'll answer that. That's a good question. No, the form that they take around is what's called an inspection form. It's actually designed by the Division of Taxation. We use that form to collect the heating system. There's check-off boxes, the number of bathrooms. That comes to our office. We enter that data into a computer system, and it generates the output of that form, is what's called the property record card. That's what will be at those informal hearings for everyone to review. That'll have the details of what we collected during the inspection. The thing that we're mailing is simply a letter that says, dear property owner, we've completed the revaluation, we've calculated the assessment of your property, and it is X. And if you'd like to talk to us about that assessment, please call this number on these dates, and then you can make an appointment to come in and sit down and review that call.
So we'll never get a copy of the assessor's record as he checks off.
Well, not during the inspection. Once we are finished with the revaluation, it becomes a record of the municipality. You can have, anybody's entitled to have their property record card, their inspection form. There's no secret. When we do the inspection and we're walking around with a form, that is not the time for us to turn it over. We're filling it out. We are going to ask you for your signatures also, not to state that what we filled out on the form is correct, but just to state that we were in your house on such and such a day.
At any point, if anybody would like a copy of their personal property record card, it's your property record card. So at any point after the revaluation, when they have brand new property, correct brand new property record cards, anyone at any point can contact me and say, hey Gail, can I have a copy of my property record card? And I'd be more than happy to give you a copy of your card. It's not a problem.
Hello, Jeff Sturgo. A couple of questions. First, I want to thank you for dismissing the whole notion that a third go up, a third go down, a third stay the same. That was thrown around for many months, and it's nice to know that that wasn't true. Second, I have a question regarding the period that you would want to pull comps if we want to disagree with your finding. When does that period start and when does it end?
Another good question. The date of value is October 1, 2015. So in a market that is somewhat stable, we typically go back 2 years prior to the date of value. There's a lag. When we're doing the revaluation, there's a lag with deed processing. So sometimes we can't get those most recent sales close to August, September. Sometimes we can, and we get them from the multiple listing service. But if the market is stable, 2 years, but we're always going to weigh by neighborhood the sales that are the closest to October 1. A sale that's on July 1st of 2015 has more meaning than July 1st of 2014.
So we're trying to get as close to October.
As close to October 1 as 15 as possible.
As far as time.
Yes.
And as far as entry, if someone were to have done work to their home without a permit, added bedrooms, added bathrooms, and they deny entry, you guys still won't know about it. You'll just be making an estimate based upon the square footage from the outside of the home. Correct? If they didn't hold the permit?
Well,
Register
in a non-threatening fashion, when somebody doesn't let us into their home, we're going to assume that that home has been fully renovated. The basement, the kitchen, the bathrooms, the attic if it has one. We're not going to add a swimming pool to the backyard of the swimming pool, but as I said before,
But
we
you also
don't,
won't add bedrooms and bathrooms from what is on the
well,
town.
we're not going to know. Bedrooms is a statistical line item. We go by gross livable area. So if the property record report says 2 bedrooms or 22, that does not affect the assessment.
So you're not comparing any, you don't really have any information from the town at all regarding the homes themselves.
The only thing we have is what's called the Mod 4 information, the ownership information provided by the town. We have a tax map that we use to plot the lot sizes of every property. But as far as interior or exterior data, we don't have any data whatsoever on any property in Roselle Park.
My property record cards, and, again, without having a reval since 1981, when I look at a property record card, I do have property record cards. When I look at them, I don't know for certain that everything on that card is the way it is. There haven't been inspections in any of the homes in, all those years. I have property record cards where homes have 1 bathroom, not a finished basement, and it could be 180 degrees the other way. It could be a fully renovated, now it has 3 bathrooms, now it has a finished basement, it has a full deck on the back. So my property record cards, I have them, but can I put, much weight into them right now? No, and that's what's very important about this revaluation is the updated data that I will have to go by from now on to say, okay, now I know exactly as of 2015 what this house has that, in 1981, it could have changed over, 20 times. I have no idea. So the new property record cards, like I said, the data I have, I rely on it because that's all I have, but it's not the most reliable data that we can get, and that's what the reval will do. It'll give us much more reliable data to go by.
And one last question. Do your inspectors have shoe covers?
They do not.
What do they do about that? Because my wife does not allow people to walk on our carpeting.
Well,
On the stairs or on the second floor with their shoes?
you know what, I did that inspector job for some time, and I didn't carry shoe covers, but if somebody wanted me to remove my shoes, I had no problem doing it.
Okay, yeah, 'cause
The guys don't take offense to that, they get it, but, yeah.
I don't get to walk on the carpeting, so nobody knows.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just asked, the gentleman just asked a question about not letting people in and what happens. I own a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. This company came to my town and I didn't let them in. I thought I was smart. I said, well, plus I was busy, I worked late, so I didn't let them in. I then got the letter that they talk about and they raised my taxes $1,500. I immediately called and went to the personal meeting. And he showed me how they estimated my home, and they estimated 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. I said, well, I only have 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. And he said, okay, then let us in, verify it. I said, okay, if it's going to bring my taxes back down $1,500, I let him in. And sure enough, within, I would say 45 days, I got a letter, and my taxes actually went down $200. I'm a personal person of what happened, so.
I didn't pay her to say that.
No, you didn't, you didn't, but when he told that, and I said, I have to say something, because I experienced them coming to my house and not letting them in and what happened to me, so.
Appreciate it.
That's why
Thank you.
Thank you.
You mentioned checking out interiors. What about outbuildings? And if they're on a foundation, is that different than like a Rubbermaid put together plastic?
Well,
Rubbermaid, yes. The foundation doesn't make a difference. If it's a Rubbermaid shed, we don't pick it up. You know, it doesn't really have value and it's not considered a permanent structure. But whether or not you have it on a foundation or on railroad ties or anything else, what the law says is if it's ordinarily intended to be a permanent structure, we pick it up. So we do.
It doesn't add a tremendous, a shed is a very low contributor to the overall.
That's true.
assessment of the property.
Yeah, it has very little, and incidentally, if it's under 100 square feet, we don't assess it. So your basic 8 by 12 shed, regardless of what it's made out of, doesn't add to your assessment.
Just one follow-up to that. All of these things, they were not designed, I wish they were, by our firm. They were all designed by the Division of Taxation. Everything that our firm and any revaluation firm does is basically mandated by the state. So they tell us how to fill out the form, what to assess, what not to assess, furnaces, new roofs, things like that. Those are maintenance items. But again, it's not us sitting in a room making these decisions. It's the Division of Taxation telling us how to do it.
Question I have is a lot of people refinance and had their house assessed already. Now you guys come in and assess my house more, but my bank said your house is only assessed this much. And I'm talking about a small window of time, 2 years. Now how do you justify that?
Well, it's not
They're
really...
telling me my house is worth more, but the bank is saying the assessor says this house is worth this much. Because the market went down.
The theoretical question, because we haven't actually told you what your house is assessed at yet. Having said that,
By what you two were trying to say here, and I'm going to be very honest, you're saying if you don't let us in, we're assessing your house high. You are telling us this. You're outright just saying, and I'm sitting here quiet, and I just wanted to hear what was going on, but I can't.
I'd like to answer the question. I'd like to answer both of them.
Go ahead.
Okay. When you do a refinance with a bank, that represents their version of market value. That's the financial risk that the person underwriting the loan to you is willing to accept. It's also done with different methodology. So it may be the same, it may not be the same. That's the answer. But we won't accept a refi appraisal sort of in lieu of an inspection. It's important for us to do everybody the same way because it's fair that way.
It's just, that doesn't make any sense. You're telling me my bank is saying I'm going to use round figures, so this is easy. Bank says it's worth $200,000. You guys come and say it's worth $250,000. I can't get a loan for $250,000 or an equity loan for $250,000 because my bank is the one that's where I got to get the money from the lender, and you're assessing it more than what the bank is assessing.
Well, you know what? A lot of people come to us and say, our bank assessed it more than you. That screws up my loan. So people say it the other way.
I'm a lifetime Roselle Park. I'm not looking to leave this town.
Sure.
But it comes to a point where if the taxes are too high, I don't have a choice. I'm a father of 5. And that's my concern here.
Sure.
All right, I'm going to be here. I'm going to die here. And there's no doubt, and I lived all over. I love this town. But if you're coming in telling these people, these poor people that are hard middle-class workers, that if you don't let us in, we're going to assess it high, then you're not being fair to the people in Roselle Park.
Well, this is
You're not, because you're very arrogant when you're talking, saying that you're doing it. And
I don't think we implied that.
Sir,
you said you're going to assess them as finished basements, this, that, and the other thing. There's a lot of people here who have wives that stay home. I don't think they would appreciate you guys ringing their doorbell, having their wives that are home, and I'm one of them, with a stranger in my house. I would like to be there.
absolutely. Schedule
Especially with
a
children.
time for us to come in when you're going to be home. In terms of having to assume that there are updates made. Typically, people that don't let us in the house don't let us in because they have a financially compelling reason to not let us in. In other words, they have renovated the house.
That's what you're taught in your book. But some people are just afraid.
I understand that.
Some people are afraid. Maybe these people understand that, But there are some, we have a lot of old people that live in this town, senior citizens. I don't think they're gonna open the door for anybody. My own neighbor won't open the door for me unless I scream it's me. And I'm being honest with you. And here's a person who's on Social Security, probably doesn't even have a pension besides Social Security. You know, and then you're gonna tell me that poor lady is gonna be assessed more, you're gonna assume her basement's finished and she put another bathroom in there?
No, I think early on when I discussed that, I said that we're talking about the property owner that is not doing it out of fear, and we said that we'll gladly make an appointment and come back anytime in a 6-day window. What I was talking about is people that will not let you in, and the reasons are obvious. But historically, in most towns that we've done, we average around 4% refusals. We're talking about a very low percentage of property owners.
Correct me if I'm wrong, it's not meant as a punishment because you didn't let them in. It's not a matter of, well, now we're going to do this, and it's not a matter of spite or punishment. It's a matter of, they don't know what's in there. And
I don't have a problem with coming into my house. That's not the issue. The issue is, what I was trying to say was, if I assessed my house with a bank, and the bank told me my house was worth $200,000, they come in and tell me it's worth more.
But again, we don't even know what they're assessing your house yet.
I know they're going to assess it higher. It just sounds like it. They came here
I can't
making
say that. I
it.
don't.
These two gentlemen, honest, I don't know if anybody else wants to say, they came here and basically, and I'm sorry, you guys represent yourselves terrible today. You guys came here saying, you'll let me in, I'm going to assume it's this. You did say that, and it's on film. You did say that.
It's true.
You did say that, so you're not even giving a poor guy. Listen, nobody wants to even let you in their house. Some of these people that I know don't even let me in their house. And I know them. They're my neighbors. They're private people. I mean, that's the way I feel. You do what you have to do because that's your job. But I think you guys represent yourselves terribly tonight. And the way you guys really, the way you're very arrogant.
I have another question. If you evaluate someone's home and they have done work without a permit, when you're all done and you make your assessment, is it going to fall into the hands of the building department? Got my answer.
I mean,
Not from us, it is.
no, I mean, the thing is when, and correct, you know, you guys do the inspections on the assessor, and the thing is, and correct me if I'm wrong, when they go in to do the inspections, they're going to come back and tell me it has 3 bathrooms, it has this, it has that. Whether or not you know it had a permit, I don't know that you guys will even know if it had a permit or not. They're not coming back to me and saying, you know what, you better go in there and check all these permits and make sure. That's not what this is about. This is about what do you have now? What do you have now? And for the people that did get the permits and did it the right way and they got the added assessment, fine. What about the people that did the work, didn't get the permits, did not get the added assessment? Is that really fair to the neighbor on either side that got the permits for the bathroom, that got the permits for the deck, that being assessed for what they have? The whole idea is fair and equitable distribution. Everyone pays their fair share. This person doesn't pay less because that person pays more and vice versa. I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think they come back to me and say, can you check on this and see if this person took out a permit for this, that, and the other thing? I think it's a matter of they have 3 bathrooms, they have this, they have that, they have that. That's what you should be assessed on. You should not be assessed on what somebody else has that you didn't get a permit, they got a permit. What you have. You get assessed for what you have. Your neighbor gets assessed for what they have. The neighbor on the other side of town gets assessed for what they have. You pay for what you have. That's the fair way. Okay, there's nothing fair about someone not getting a permit and not paying their fair share, and then the rest of the people, guess what? You pick up the burden for that. That person that's not paying their fair share, who else is going to pay it? All the other people. So if everyone pays their fair share, then that's what this is about. So as far as permits, as far as I know, nobody's knocking at your door saying, okay, now here's a fine for this and that. I don't handle that, I'll be honest, in the assessing office, that's not my thing to handle anyway. That's the construction official and construction department. If any kind of fines or anything are levied, that's on their end, but it's not me knocking on their door saying, you know, let me pull all these permits and see what's going on. We just want to know what you have now and pay and assess for what you have now. That's it.
My question is, you said that the last time the reval was done was 1981. I bought my house in 98. Between 81 and 98, I believe the people before me put in a new kitchen. I can tell you it's no longer a new kitchen when I open the cabinet and the door falls off. Will you go back to the reevaluation from 81 or from when, like I'm sure they came in and inspected my house before I bought it. Isn't that on file somewhere? Aren't you going to go back to that, what it was valued then?
As far as who inspected your house?
When I bought it, the bank came in and you don't have that record?
Not the bank, no. In Roselle Park, Roselle Park doesn't have a typical CO inspection. Roselle Park has a smoke and fire certification inspection. There's some towns that have a full-blown CO inspection where they go in and check everything from the size of the numbers on the outside of your house to if you have debris in the yard, you have this and that. Roselle Park doesn't have a typical CO inspection, so I don't have those records as far as if someone came in. When you had a CO, chances are it was a smoke certification kind of CO.
So you don't know what's in my house. Like when they come in and do their checkoff box, they can't say, oh, look, she's got, I don't know, a new kitchen or a nice countertop that wasn't
And
there.
that's a determination that they make as far as, and maybe you can address that, Neil, at some point. You know, I know that it's determined whether it's, what are the classifications you use, old, average?
Right, old, average, and modern. Basically, typically we call something modern. It's been updated in the last 10 years. You know, it's been updated in the last 10 years, and it's still Formica and vinyl. It's average. You know what I mean? But there are people that put in modern kitchens. You know, we're not looking at your appliances. That's personal problem. But we will go in there as far as the kitchen goes and write down what your countertops are made out of, what your cabinets are made out of, what your floors are made out of, and we will ask you when the kitchen was done. We go out there with a blank data collection form. We don't have a list of permits. We don't know whether or not you got a permit. We don't know what the town has you down for. We've been hired to go out there and do this from scratch. So we're reporting back what we saw in the house the day that we were there. And we're not biased by any prior records or anything else.
Terminology used for every room then?
That's specific to the kitchen.
I want to thank Gail and Carl for getting back to me earlier on an email that I sent. I live in Roselle Park. I'm also a realtor. And because of not having the typical COs and you don't have also the records for how far it goes, the other concerns that some people have is that if some work was done, or if they themselves did some work, are they going to be penalized in that case? Are there going to be fines that are going to be issued? Or they do want to pay the reassessment now, they think it's fair and they should pay what everyone else is paying. They're just afraid of letting them in and now being fined on top of having to do it. Redo the work.
I find nobody. That's not my...
We report to the tax assessor.
But, okay, so if they come back to you as working for the town, will you go to the buildings department and tell them, I need you to run a check on them to make sure that work wasn't done?
No, they're going to come back to me, they're going to say this, and again, because my property record cards are what they are, and basically they're going to come back to me, they're going to say, okay, this house has 3 bathrooms. Well, you know, if my property record card shows you have 2 bathrooms, well now you have 3 bathrooms. You have 3 bathrooms now. That's what, you know, a lot of times people will put in place an air conditioning, central air conditioning. And I'll send them an added assessment. They'll say, well, I had it for 20 years. So we had a break for 20 years because it wasn't on the property record card. You weren't taxed, you weren't assessed for 20 years. I don't go back. I don't go into the construction department and say, hey, you know what? At some point they put this in. As far as I'm concerned, you have it now. If you have it now, you should start paying for it now. I don't go back and say, okay, let's go back 20 years and you stop paying what you should have been paying for 20 years. I'm concerned about what's happening now. What you're having there now, let's have everyone start paying and being assessed for what they have now. Okay? As far as any kind of fines and things, again, I'm not the code enforcement officer. I'm not going door to door looking for people doing construction. Somebody else handles that. In my office, I just want to know what you have there now, just so we can assess and get everyone's assessment right. That's it.
Quick question. This gentleman's question before was, when they're doing the checklist, can we get a copy of the checklist that day? When you finish your assessment, put all your check marks down, that's what we have. I would like a copy, right then and there.
Do you have a copier in your home?
Yeah.
I guess if you have a copier, typically it's not a town document until we turn it over to the municipality, so we're really not bound to turn over a copy, but with the town's approval, I don't see an issue.
I think it would be fair to give, or at least make it a carbon copy. I've set up with a carbon, that if you're making this checklist,
The form's are already printed and ready. We're starting the inspections next week.
If Neil doesn't have a problem, if you have a copier, again, it's just, I haven't seen that actual form, but from what I hear, it's just kind of ticking off
We
stuff.
circle for me.
Yeah.
just so we can have an idea of what they've checked off, and
I don't, if they don't have a problem with that, I don't
Looks
have
a lot like a menu.
it doesn't matter. I would like a copy of it.
Yeah.
Now, also on the forum, people found that they're taking pictures. Are you guys going to be taking pictures?
Well,
Not the inspector. We have a different team that goes to the town, just exterior, nothing on the inside, and from the front of the house only,
Okay.
on the sidewalk, basically. Right. As long as we can see the house.
Okay, we're not taking pictures in the yard, we're not taking pictures in the house.
Not a one.
That's because I wouldn't, if they were taking pictures in the house, you wouldn't be coming in.
We're not.
Thank you, that's a good question. And I do have, I do have a property in another county, and after they did the town assessment, my taxes did go down by about $300.
Anybody hear that?
Happens, not often, but it does happen.
It's simple math, but people go down and people do go up. That's a nature of the revaluation.
when you think about it, most of the assessments in this room, I'm going to hazard a guess, 60,000, 70,000, 80,000, somewhere in that ballpark. When you think about it, your house is not worth $60,000, $70,000, or $80,000. The assessment should be what your house is worth. That's what your house was worth back in 1981.
Right.
So now we get brand new assessments that, bring it up to market value. You should look at your assessment in 2016 and say, yes, that's what my house is worth. It's not worth $70,000. I would hope you all would agree that your house is worth more than $70,000 or $80,000. It's worth, up there. And again, you have to keep in mind the whole thing with the tax rate. Right now, our tax rate is 12.907. Okay? It's not going to stay 12.907. Once the assessments go up, the tax rate's going to go down. Again, we don't know what that's going to be. When the tax rate is struck, in the third quarter, that's when we're going to know what it is. We don't know what it is right now, but it's certainly not going to stay at 12.907. It's going to go down. So when you get your new assessment, and your new assessment is 4 times what your assessment is now, please don't apply a tax rate of 12.907 to that new assessment, because that's incorrect and that is not what your tax is going to be, just so you know.
Right, and the other thing I had was not really a question. A lot of people, they're concerned about this, and I know the mayor and council and everything has approved this. Well, I think the officials should start the ball rolling by letting their houses be assessed first. Good faith.
You want to come? I'll be the first one. Anybody want to come? They can come. 318 Hemlock Street. They ain't getting the assessment. You can all come. I got nothing to hide. Nothing.
Going to get busy.
So the rumor mongers can put that out there. I'll be the first one. I'll volunteer. And anybody can come. And I'll even have donuts and coffee.
I apologize if I missed this at the beginning. I've heard so much about interiors and if kitchens were redone and basements were redone. What are you doing about outside? Roselle Park is a town with personality, which means there's still a lot of asbestos siding and things on houses. How is that going to be taken into consideration for the reevaluation?
Basically, the goal is to assess every property at what's called fair market value. So we look at anything either positive or negative that we feel affects the value of that property. If there are sales to show that something in an area is negatively impacted, then we'll use those sales for all the homes in that area. As far as asbestos siding, we would need market data really to show that. And not to fall back on this, but we're doing a mass appraisal of your property. We're going to spend 5 or 7 minutes doing the inspection. We're going to try to get exactly what we think your home is worth. But appraisal of real estate is not an exact science. If you hired 3 appraisers to appraise your home, no 2 would be the same. There's opinion, there are many variables, but at the end of the day, we try to come up with as close to fair market value as we can get.
Right, but fair market value is really what somebody's willing to pay for your property.
True.
And the fact is that there's also some idiosyncrasies in Roselle Park with perhaps houses that are very close to yours that may not have been taken care of for many years. And that would, if it was a real true fair market value, impact on the fair market value of your house. What I could sell my house for might be very different than if you're just looking at what's in my house.
No, we look at the inside, we look at the outside, and we look at the neighborhood. The house is next door to a gas station or some external factor. That's anything, as I said, anything that affects the value. Outside the home, inside the home, near the home. So, and again, that's part of the reason why we have the informal hearings. When we're done and we send you your letter saying we think your home is worth X, that's your opportunity to either say, it looks about right and throw it in the garbage, or pick up the phone and come down and sit and talk to us. Maybe we did miss it. Maybe you weren't home and we didn't get in, or whatever the case may be. That's the perfect opportunity to try to enlighten us further. And after that, we do them with Gail in conjunction with the tax assessor. We'll send you a second letter after we review whatever it is you are asking us to review, and we'll consider it. And if we agree, we'll lower the assessment. Again, our company has a fixed contract amount. We don't benefit any more by assessing any property more than its fair market value. We also have to defend those assessments. So we're trying to get it right. Can we get every single home right on the first try? No, nobody can. It's a monumental task to reassess 3,500 properties. But my opening line is we've been around for 60 years doing this. It's not an easy business, as I guess you could imagine. But fairness is what we are attempting. So if you disagree, come in and talk to us.
Okay, one last issue. Say you have neighbors around you, because I know at least one that I'm positive will not allow you in their house. Say the neighbors around you are not allowing you in, and they are going to be assessed at the highest possible value. Does that have any impact on your assessment?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
When was the last time you guys reassessed? Last town, municipality?
We did 14 revaluations last year.
You got a couple? I mean, not one comes to mind.
Roselle, Seagirt, we did Wyckoff in Bergen County, we did Lacey Township in Ocean County, we're doing Wall Township right now, we're doing Red Bank right now, we're doing 5 revals right now. We've done nothing but that for 60 years.
Of the ones you finished in the last year, you say a third go up, a third go down. Are those stats actually out anywhere that we can look at that you have to provide to the town?
No. I mean,
It's all private, we won't know, you can just make up the third goes up.
No. First of all, I said that really was an old myth, that was the
Do you
fact.
have actual stats that we can look at or find anywhere, or it's all private?
No, there's websites available right now that you can look any assessment and taxes up on any property in the state of New Jersey. You want all of them.
What I'm asking is, the towns that you guys did,
Yeah, those towns are on there.
those towns, but do you have your own stats already set
No,
up?
when we're doing a revaluation, although taxes is a direct impact on the revaluation, that's what happens after, we're reassessing your property at fair market value. What the budget is for Roselle Park or any town that I did last year or ever, that happens internally. So that's happening after the revaluation is completed. But the assessments in New Jersey are available for review by any property owner in the state,
All right.
publicly.
Next, that letter you guys sent out, it said you guys are going to do the reevaluation, you're going to come and look, you're going to do the whole nine. And it said if there's any income-producing properties, you'll ask for something later on. What do you guys do with that? What do you need from that? What happens with that?
We're going to mail a form that requests the income and expense information. That's only for commercial properties, apartments, offices, stores.
2 families?
No.
Okay. So it's not going to affect anything?
5 family and up and commercial. And that's, again, that's by the order of the Division of Taxation. We mail that form. You appraise commercial property differently than residential property. It's still market value, but we use the income approach to appraise an office building. The value of those properties is what the rents they collect versus the expenses they spend.
So say for a commercial property, if it's only collecting $1,000 a month rent, which equals 12 grand a year, then what happens? It gets taxed at 12%, you're saying, or no?
No, we're going to appraise it based upon its net income, basically.
Okay. Right. The other question, you guys have nothing in the town since 1981. So you're saying if the property value due for your tax things that you send out quarterly, it shows that the houses are assessed at like 1981 value, like 60, 70 grand?
Right, it's not,
So I got reassessed, I didn't get reassessed, I got my mortgage refunded, it's valued at like 240.
okay.
So if it's 12% now, and you guys come around and say the value of the house is 240, let's say, if it goes down to 10% instead of a 12% bracket, taxes are going to shoot up then, no?
Well, as far as, first of all, as far as having nothing, I don't have nothing. I have property record cards.
It makes sense, you have like not too much to go on.
Well, like I said before, I don't put a lot of credence in them only because they are from 1981.
Okay.
And, you know, I've done the best, since I've taken over, I've done the best that I can in keeping track of permits, and when people don't do work, I can update the property record card. Everything's done in paper and pencil, and you make the adjustments whatever I have to make, and then send out the assessments, and I've done the best I can, but, you know, the cards themselves, if I would pull any property record card and go to that house, can I guarantee that my card is going to match that house? I'm going to go out on a limb here and say no. I'm going to say there was work done in that house, or there were updates done in that house since 1981 that maybe are not reflected on my property record card. I mean, as far as the value, you know, the way I come up with, sometimes people will call my office and say, you know, I want to file an appeal, my taxes are too high. Well, first of all, you don't appeal your taxes. You appeal your assessment. When you file an appeal, you're not appealing your taxes. You can't appeal your taxes. They're based on a tax rate that's struck and given to us that we apply to the assessment. If you look at it this way, when you file a tax appeal, you're appealing your assessment. You're not appealing your taxes, you appeal your assessment. If you feel your assessment's wrong on your house, then you file a tax appeal. If you feel your assessment's right, you don't file a tax appeal because you can't defend it. But basically, when people call me and say, okay, Gail, my assessment is $60,000. That's what it says. The way I come up with what I believe or what the assessment is telling me the fair market value of that is, I have to take that $60,000 and divide it by our tax rate, which is 0.2750. Then I come up with a number and I say, based on the assessment, this is what I'm saying your property is worth. Sometimes people agree with me, and then I advise them I wouldn't file a tax appeal, but you're agreeing with me. It's hard to defend something that, you know, will fight something you agree with. Okay? And that's what Neil was saying at the beginning when he gave that figure of 27%. You know, basically, your house right now is only valued at 27% of what it's really worth. So when you have a $60,000 assessment, your house is worth more than $60,000.
Now, they're not taking pictures of the inside of the house, just outside from the street view, and then you just write down whatever's in there. So if I put the house the way it is, and the people before me didn't put permits on half the stuff that's in there, you said you don't assess fines.
I don't let
and say, well, we noticed that there's hi-hats, there's a ceiling fan, a jacuzzi, I don't know, some grotto down in the basement or something. I mean,
really?
no, it's not. But if there was, Like, who's gonna, I mean, when the building department comes through and starts looking at these later on,
Building, well, I
They
don't
go
know
look
about
at it
other
later?
towns, I mean, as far as the building department going through my tax cards, they don't go through my tax cards. I don't hand my, you know, when this happens, I'm not gonna take all my property record cards and hand it over to the construction department and say, okay, go through these one by one and match your permits. It's not gonna happen. They can't do that, they're not gonna do that. What I say about fines, as a tax assessor, I don't levy fines. I don't, you know, that's not my thing to levy. If someone's doing work without permits and it's found out that they're doing work without permits, either by the construction official or the code enforcement officer, are there fines that are levied? Yes, and they're pretty substantial. And some of the fines could be in the thousands of dollars for doing work without permits.
well, I got permits, my taxes go up, so I mean, I figured you pay
Well,
once.
you know, I look at it this way. I tell people, you know, if someone puts an addition on the house, or someone puts a deck on the house, or completely does a complete renovation, you know, to the studs of their kitchen. Now, if that person were to put this house on the market, would they use all of those things to sell that house and to say, hey, I got a brand new kitchen, I got a deck, I got an addition? Probably. They would use all of that to sell this house. Why wouldn't I say your house is worth what you think your house is worth? Why wouldn't I say, you know what? It's worth more, and you can probably get more because you did all this work on the house. So whatever you would use to sell your house, it would make sense that as an assessor, I would say, I think your house is worth as much as you think your house is worth.
All right, thank you.
And you have pictures of the inside of my house.
I do. You do? How'd that happen? Did I come and inspect your
Not
house?
you.
Not me? Okay.
No, the one before you.
Paul.
Yeah.
Okay.
He has pictures of the inside of my entire house.
And I'm not, you know, I'm not saying we don't. I'm saying in the reval process, it's not going to happen. If I have to do an inspection, if I'm going to someone's house because they did an addition or something, will I come and ask them if I could take some pictures of the inside of the house of the addition? Okay, well, I can't, you know, I can address what my predecessor did.
That's not my point. My point is, I did renovations to my house 8 years ago. My taxes doubled.
Your taxes doubled?
Doubled.
What kind of renovations did you do?
I did a total reno on my entire house. Now, my question is, I'm paying pretty high. 7 years have gone by. So what you guys are going to assess my house again, and I'm going to be paying more than I'm paying again? You have everything. I pulled permits for everything.
Okay. If the permits were pulled,
Everything.
and if, I'm going to throw if in front of everything because, again, I can't, and it'd be unfair, I can't address anything that happened here before I...
Oh, I understand.
You know, and everyone here has to understand that. I can't. I do the best I can, and once I took over, I do the best I can to keep as accurate records as I can. If you did all this work, and if you were levied an added assessment for doing this work, which again, I don't know. I don't know, you said how many years ago it was?
7.
Okay, I don't even know if I would have those records in my office. You know.
Probably do. There's pictures and everything.
Well,
He showed them to me.
oh, I showed them to you.
No, he did
Okay.
before he left.
Okay, again, you know, what happened to those pictures and where they are, if they're in your property record card file, we have them. If they're not, again, I can't address where they are, what was done with them. If an ad assessment was put on your property, you know, can I find out? Yeah, it's not a hard thing to find out. I'd have to go back into the tax list, going back, 8 years, see what your assessment was the year before you did the work, and check the tax list the year after, and if there's any difference there, that was the ad assessment. If the ad assessment was not levied on your property, I'm not saying your taxes are going to double again. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying
They're not, because
I'm saying maybe your
I'm
property
handing
is
you the
assessed,
keys to my house.
and this goes over. Your property may be assessed where it's worth. We don't know. We're not going to know. Nobody's going to know until the inspections are done, until you get, okay, this is what your assessment is. And for the most part, I think the majority of people know what their house should be worth. Some don't, some have no clue what it's worth. We're not going to know anything until the inspections are done, until everything is calculated, and then I won't know until the figures are given to me. until,
Another question I have, the two-family homes, are they assessed at the same, the rates are the same? You guys, how do?
yeah, you pretty much,
Same market value.
yeah.
The
Same as the
same.
one thing. Trying to figure out what they're worth.
And you guys leave cards there, how do you go about doing that? When you go in, because tenants don't,
Well, the letter actually asked it to notify your tenants of the inspection. The letter, we mailed that last week, so if you could let your tenants know, we're going to be coming around to that house and to every house the same
if
way.
they're working, they are not there, they're,
Leave the cards.
This will be on the door now.
okay? And how, if they're
If
not
it blows
around,
off or something happens to it, we'll leave another one.
okay? Okay. All right.
And incidentally, if nobody's been to your house, but they've been to all your neighbors' houses and you feel like you missed the guy, just call us.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi. I have a couple questions here. First of all, I hear people coming up here, and I feel as if they are attacking you gentlemen. As if you personally are following your own rules and your own regulations, and like you don't follow any guidelines or any state laws. So could you please just clarify the rules and regulations that you have to follow, that you would follow with every town?
We follow the same set of rules for every town. Those rules are promulgated by the New Jersey Division of Taxation under the Treasury Department. They have a manual that they provide to every revaluation firm and every tax assessor. And that manual tells us specifically what to assess, how to assess it. The going to every property 3 times, that's the Division of Taxation's rule. That's not our rule. They tell us you have to go 3 times and leave those 2 cards. We actually have the administrator here, and I'm going to hand him the microphone.
Thank you, Neil. Christopher DeRee from the Union County Board of Taxation. Just to answer your question, we actually supervise the assessor for Roselle Park, and we're also responsible for supervising the reval. We follow, and the realty firm has to follow the rules, as Neil said, promulgated by the Director of Division of Taxation. And so it's very clear, we have to supervise them, we follow their rules, that's basically the process.
My next question is, could you please explain the tax formula that is used to come up with the new town tax rate? I mean, because if our houses are going to be assessed, let's say, $300,000 from $80,000, it's not going to be at the 12.9 or 7%, right? So what is the formula, what is the math formula that is used? Could you explain that to us?
Sure. That's me again. We have the responsibility of striking the tax rate. So basically, after the reval is complete, we're going to have a new total valuation for the township. And then, as the town and the county, everybody does every year, we're going to have a total budget amount that the schools need, the town needs, the county needs. And we're going to take that total new assessed value and divide that by the taxes, and we're going to come up with a new tax rate. Now, when that total assessed value goes up, because now we have all the new values, that's going to, as they said before, bring the tax rate down. So that's the process, basically.
Okay, so like our taxes aren't going to be, you know, like if you're paying taxes like the other one was saying, you're paying taxes.
This whole process is budget neutral. So if last year Roselle Park combined, let's say the tax rate was what, $12? Right. So let's say the total taxes collected from the county, the school, the town was $50 million. Every year you have your normal increases that are going to happen regardless. So you're going to factor that in. But as a result of this process, it's not going to increase the taxes. You're just going to see the normal increases that you normally have.
Okay, and could you gentlemen explain when it comes to garages? And my thing is, I was thinking about doing an appeal. And well, now because we're going through this, I'm not going to do that. But really, the reason, one of the main reasons is because I have a big old house. I'm a single mom. I don't have a lot of money. It's coming into disrepair. But 25 years ago, the garage was taken down. I have no garage. I've been taxed on a garage. So what is like the percentage used on a garage when you're evaluating houses? You know what I'm trying to say?
First of all, if If you no longer have a garage, you shouldn't be taxed on the garage.
Right.
That goes for anyone. If something doesn't exist, if you find out you're being taxed on something in your property that no longer exists, by all means, contact me immediately and say,
25 years ago.
well, again, and I can't give you 25-year credit, I'm so sorry, but I can't do that. And again, it's almost like with an assessor. I can't go back and make it right 25 years, but I'll make it right now. If you don't have a garage, you shouldn't be taxed on a garage, I'll take it away. I've had people come to me and I show them my property record card or something, and they'll say, well, I don't have that deck, I got rid of that. Okay, I'll take the deck off. Again, it goes back to fairness. You shouldn't be taxed for something that you don't have.
Okay, so, because that was just something I just did not know, you know. And the last thing is I did not receive that letter that you gentlemen are talking about, but somebody over here did not receive it as well.
I brought extras.
You can get a copy.
I mean, I'll be honest, I have a stack of, they came back, the address is right. Why they came back, I have no, there's a sticker from the post office saying not deliverable as addressed, but the address is right, so I have no idea what happened there. I can't vouch for why they weren't delivered. But we could certainly, if you want a copy of any letters, Neil has them. If not, you contact me and I can make it show.
Okay, thank you so much.
One of the things that you mentioned before is that you take into account the location of the property. Well, I have a special situation where my house is located not close to a gas station like you used the examples before, but it's located close to a church that's located in Elizabeth. Now what happens on a Sunday, the parishioners from this church, they park on my block. And it really impacts the value of the home. Now, open homes, when a house is for sale, the house next door to me has been for sale, and when they have open house, people come over and they see all these cars and there's no place to park. They don't even get out the car, they just keep on going. So my question to you is, how would you take this into account? Because it's a variable condition. It only happens on Sunday.
Open house on Saturday.
I don't think that's a good answer. Did you say that? Come on. Have open house on Saturday. Did you say that?
No, I think that came from the audience.
Okay, I don't think that's yours. Whoever said that. So this does impact the value of my home, and it's very serious about it.
Anything that you think impacts the value of your home, please point it out to the inspector, because the data collection form that they carry has certain boxes that they can check off. It also has a piece of graph paper on the back for them to sketch on, and it has a big notes field. So anything that's not addressed by, how many bathrooms, is the basement finished or not, any factors that don't get addressed by the standard, things on the form, they can put in the notes field. And the appraisers will take a look at those notes. I'm one of the appraisers, Neil's one of the appraisers. So anything that you think affects the value of your house, like what you just said, tell it to the gentleman that comes to your house, and he'll write it down on the data collection.
Yeah, I have
We'll
another
consider
question. Another question. Based on your experience, how does this assessment process affect the sales of homes?
Typically doesn't, in my experience.
Well, I would think that if I was a buyer and I wanted to buy a home in Roselle Park, and I knew that something was going on, an assessment, then I'd be cautious to buy a house in that town. I would think it would impact sales of, I'm speculating on that.
Well, there was a real estate agent here before, and I'm a real estate appraiser myself. Most agents and real estate professionals understand sort of how the formula works. So in other words, if the average house is assessed at 25% of what it's worth, and it's assessed at $60,000, and you feel that it's worth $240,000, and you're going to sell it for $240,000, then the exercise is pretty much tax neutral. Right?
I'm not sure you're addressing my question. I'm talking about this. I have the feeling that this would impact the saleability of a home.
Right. What I'm saying is,
So it's based on your previous experience.
Right, based on my previous experience, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
A real estate professional who knows what your assessment is and who knows what your home is worth can figure out what the tax impact of a revaluation is going to be pretty close.
Really? Well, I just wanted to point out to other people in this room that houses in Roselle Park right now, if you think about selling, they're not selling too well. Now, you add this factor into it, and it's going to happen at a prime time. This process is going to go on from now until October. Usually homes sell best in the springtime. So if anybody's thinking about selling their home in Roselle Park, I personally feel that this is going to have an impact on it. That's my opinion.
Okay.
I just want to address the sales for a second, because all the sales that happen in Roselle Park eventually come into the deeds, they all come into my office. I'm going to be honest with you, the sales aren't bad. The sales that are coming in, the sales that are bad, I mean, do we have short sales? Do we have sales, some bankruptcy? There's some sales that maybe aren't market value for one reason or another. But the sales that are coming in, that are good sales, arm's length transaction, willing seller, willing buyer, I'll be honest, the market isn't bad. I've seen worse markets. It's not a bad market. I think the sales are coming in pretty well. So I wouldn't be concerned about the market. Are there sales that aren't? Well, sure. But I'm just saying, for the most part, the sales that I'm seeing coming in, I don't think it's a bad market at all. Yes, sir.
So my question is regarding the tax rate, right? You guys already explained it's 12.97, but just simple for my understanding, what I'm doing is I'm just making it to a round number. So if my house, as I know, most of the houses are around 60 to 80,000 range value, right? But I'm making it all the round numbers. So suppose it says 100,000, right? And my taxes is 10,000 right now. So it's a 10% rate right now. If it goes to 200,000 in assessment, that rate overall becomes 5%, right? I'm assuming.
In budget neutral environment.
Yeah, in budget neutral environment, it's becoming 5%, right? So now when the tax rate cap comes in the state, that's 2%, right? So how that works? Was it taxed on the property assessment value, or is it on a tax rate?
It's on the tax rate, but your example is very good.
Yeah.
You're going from 100,000 with the revalue values going to 200,000. Your tax rate is now getting cut in half. So your taxes are basically staying at that 10,000, except you're going to now have to include, as every year, your 2% or whatever the percent ends up being in a tax increase.
Yeah. So that 2% is the 5% of 2% or 10% of 2%? So now earlier it was 2% increase of 10%, right? That percent number remains absolute, what I mean is. So if we have a 2% increase, so that 2% increase on 10%, right?
It now becomes 2% of the 200,000.
No.
Which then equals
2% of 10%. So that is.
That's a whole rate.
Yeah, so 10% is current rate. Assume that 10% is current rate, right?
So I hear what you're saying. It becomes 2% of the 5%
Yes,
tax
yes,
rate.
yes, yeah, yes.
Yeah.
So is that true?
Yes, that should inevitably what should occur.
Okay, so that means then that's absolutely.
Well, and to make it simple, if you went from the 100 to the 200 and the tax rate gets cut in half, your tax rate should be around the same as what you were paying before the revamp.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You said that you do all your assessments during the regular business hours, 9 to 5 and stuff.
No, we'll visit the house initially during 9 to 5.
But this is
If you're not home, we'll leave a doorknob tag with a phone number on it.
But couldn't you, like people also, they work during the daytime?
Absolutely.
75% of us.
Yep.
Couldn't you pick a specific neighborhood and maybe hit it on the weekend?
We work on Saturdays, every Saturday.
We work every Saturday, right, yeah, so if you're working during business hours, you'll come home and you'll find a doorknob hanger, and it'll say, we'll be back at this time, on this date, But if that date and time doesn't work for you, give us a call and make an appointment. So you just give us a call and make an appointment for a Saturday or an evening when you're home.
Would you object to, like an escort? Like, I know everyone in my neighborhood, and if you would knock on my door, I'll let you in. But my neighbor might not be so happy to see you, but if I'm standing next to you, they might say, is he with you? I'll say, I'll keep an eye on him. And then I'll have my hand on your shoulder the whole time you're there. So
That works,
would this be I know it's not going to be you guys, but the people you send out.
At one
They
time,
might not like me standing over there.
At one time it was us, and I don't think we would have had a problem.
These neighbors a long time.
And it was, I think what a lot of people are nervous about is, it was made, it was explained that, look, if in 1981 you inspected, let's say, my house, I had 2 bathrooms, I had 3 bedrooms, and I had a kitchen and a living room. Now, I still got exactly the same thing, but because I didn't want to live in the 1950s, hey, I put a new light here. Now, I still have this 3 bedrooms, I still have 2 bathrooms, but now I have to pay more, and people, they spent good, hard-earned money to make a new bathroom. But now they have to pay more because they made a new bathroom. And why? They didn't increase the size of the bathroom. It's the same bathroom in '81. But now it's worth more. So this is what scares a lot of people.
Not much. A house that has 1 new bathroom versus the original. People that can explain modern, same.
Sure. I think first it's important to keep in mind that we're not.
Yeah, but like you said, I put, let's say, solid gold fixtures on my bedroom. Hey, my house is worth a lot more now. But, you know, but you say, wait a minute, it's still bad?
Right, well, modern, average, and old are the 3 designations that we
But
get.
that should have no bearing. To say bathroom, yes. Kitchen, yes.
Sir, look at it this way. I'm a real estate appraiser, so at the end of the day,
Right.
it's my job to say, what is your house worth
Yeah, but
as
you
of
said-
October 1st? If you have a new bathroom,
But you said,
it's,
go ahead.
so it's my job. So first, we don't walk around with the old records, so we're not comparing what you had with what you have now, okay? However, if you go to sell your house, right, is your house worth more with a new kitchen in it, or is it worth more with the old kitchen?
I understand that.
Right,
but
so
you
that's the way
said
it
in
gets
the
reflected.
beginning that you're not talking about real estate as a real estate agent. You're just seeing what the house is. Yes, if I had 1 bathroom, now I got 2. Of course, I got an issue.
It's right, but it's a very. The answer is really simple. What is your house worth as of October 1st? If a house has new baths and new kitchens in it, it's worth more than a house that doesn't.
I agree with that.
So-
But what I'm saying is that then you can't say, look, in '81, everyone on this block had 2 bathrooms. And now, in 2015, they all still have 10 bathrooms. They didn't increase anything in the whole block yet. They just updated them because they didn't want to live in the old times.
Oh, I understand
So
what you're
now
saying.
they're getting penalized.
No.
A lot of people are going to be crying. They're going to be crying to the town because, and they're feeling that the money that they paid to do it was also, they're still making payments on that. So they're going to be hitting from both directions.
Again,
So you have to be gentle with this town.
We get it.
Or borough, whatever.
No, we get it. I just think it's important, again, to know. We don't have the old records. We don't know what you changed, what you didn't change.
Yes.
We're going out there with a blank piece of paper. So if you and your neighbor have the same exact house, but you redid your kitchens and bath and your neighbors didn't, or vice versa, the one with the redone kitchens and bath is worth more. It's going to sell for more. So it's going to have a higher assessment.
But that's not what was explained to us when this whole thing started. When this whole thing started, we were told that, look, if you still got the same living space square footage, you're the same. But now, it's not.
It's what it would sell for. It's market value.
If I could just, at the end of the day, when October 1st comes, I wouldn't get hung up on Formica or granite.
Yeah.
I wouldn't get caught up on 2 bathrooms or 1. I think what you need to focus in on is what is the value of my home? And has the realty firm gotten it right? And so when you have that review process and that figure is there, that's a great opportunity to come in and say, oh, well, they got my Formica bathroom, they got kitchen, they got my 2 bathrooms, they got me at $300,000. Is that right?
I was
I think
always
that's,
under the
you know-
impression that it was like, it was going to be, yes, I still have this many windows, I didn't increase or decrease my windows. I still have the same amount of bathrooms, I still have the same kitchen. I still have a kitchen, not new, old, modern, granite.
Right, but at the end of the day, what is that worth? And if they've got it right, then great, that's what we're shooting for. If they've got it wrong, then that's your opportunity to say, you didn't get it right, and explain to me where we're at.
But this is what people are going to be saying to the elected officials. They're going to be screaming, not to you, but they're going to be screaming to them. And that's what I want to explain to the people, that, you know, this is something that, look, it's inevitable. It's going to happen. It was going to happen sooner or later, but people are come work to their houses. They work very hard. They're making payments on these, and now they're getting hit again. And I just think that this, you got to be really careful with this evaluation, re-evaluation. As far as the other statement I said about, you know, you come to my house and then you say, I'm going to your next door neighbor. I says, I'll come with you. You won't have any objection to that.
I don't think so.
think that's fine. That's basically.
Thank you.
Point of information, I don't think you folks know, but probably Gail does. Since 2008, around that time, we've had tax appeals of $750,000, and we also had to pay the county and the school tax. It was stated that people will be taxed if a person put a new kitchen without a permit, bathroom, or anything of that nature. That is what we were told. I guess we're getting the full information tonight. 1981 was the last time a property reevaluation was done. There should be records in the archives upstairs. And there should be a paper trail to follow from the county. The county keeps records from 81 with the last property reevaluation. I've heard different type of stories. I remember Mr. Endler, when he came and he sat down over here, and he said, we should have a property tax reevaluation. And they were outside eating up the tar and pulling the feathers off the chickens. But had we done it at that time, because we've had recession, which fluctuated the housing market, and do we have an accurate cost or my insurance policy is $325,000 for rebuilding the house, and what I paid for 20 or 30 years ago. So it's something that the mayor helped us move this. And we have about 20 other tax appeals, I believe, around figures. Question the chief financial officer, just nod your head if it's 20 is right, correct? With the big ones. Anything that's over $1 million, I guess, goes down to the state. But we're being hit not only with tax appeals, $239,000 for property revaluation, plus a couple extras. It's a terrible burden, especially on senior citizens with fixed incomes. I know you folks are not interested in that, other than doing what you have to do for your company. Thank you.
Good evening. My question is, for those that were successful with their appeals, and I was one of them about 3 years ago, how does that affect me going forward?
That value is going to reset. So for this year, we still have the valuation that was changed through the appeal process. When the reval is complete and put on the books for 2016, you'll now have that new value. And then when the tax rate comes out in the summer, at some point, you'll then know third and fourth quarter what your new tax amount will be.
Because with all of this, it's just going to seem like I'm going to be penalized for doing that appeal and winning that appeal, really, if my taxes go up. And I'm not getting this whole reassessment issue and why it was needed in the first place. When the majority of people that may have did these tax appeals and won them and are at a fairer rate that they're happy with, which I am now.
I can give you a little view sitting at the tax board. When we have hundreds of appeals that we hear from people, and I hear a lot tonight that people are going to get penalized, that it's not going to be fair. And I can tell you, when we call an appeal and somebody sits in front of us, the first thing I hear is, well, my neighbor next door is paying less than me. And did you know that they've got a finished basement and this and that? This process is about being fair, so that we can eliminate all that. And everyone is paying their fair share. So I just wanted to get that point out, because that's what I hear every day on a daily basis. And that's what this process is set up to take care of.
Sure, I get it, but like everyone in here, they're really looking to take care of themselves, which is perfectly natural. I mean, I'm doing it myself just being here, listening to all of this that's going on. But I don't think it's fair that I paid for a service that strictly I was overpaying for taxes for several years, and now I feel like after this assessment is done, and I'm at a rate where I'm happy with.
It may stay the same. We
don't know
that, and that's why, like I tried to drill home before, when you get that notice and that value's on there, that's your time to take a look and
That's
say.
the real concern with everybody here right now. They don't know. You don't know. I mean, that's going to be an issue.
Well, we're just going to have to see where the numbers are at the end. Thank you.
Good evening. I was listening to all this information. This is good information. Now, what I see is everything would depend, rate is going to depend on the budget, right?
Correct.
Right. Now, how the budget look for 2016?
That one I can answer.
Yeah, because we're looking for something now, because at this time, I think that the city, the town has a problem with the budget. I see the way that the street look, the pickup, of the garbage is, the bulk system pickup is bad. And when we moved to the third part, they used to pick up twice the bulk. Now it's only once. Twice this year? It used to be, last year was to June.
We haven't had two bulks since 2009. 2009 was the last time we had two bulks on Sourdough.
No, last year was one.
No.
You're absolutely right. Last year, you had one.
Right. How about this year?
Two.
When?
The dates were already posted out.
June and October.
June and October.
June and October.
Yes.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry about that. Thank you.
No
It's
problem.
okay.
No problem, understandable.
Yeah, because I didn't know. about it.
Understandable.
But my question is, how the budget looks for 2016?
The budget looks quite well.
The same as this
We
year?
started over at over a $180 deficit. We got it down to below $100.
Okay.
The same as just about last year, and we added a second bulk and some other things to keep it down. And what? When's the? March 5th, the council meeting at 7 o'clock is the public portion for everybody to come and speak about the budget. So we sharpened the pencil, we kept everything in. You're getting 2 bulks, you're getting fireworks, no layoffs, and there was a few added other things too that was in. So the budget will be talked on March 5th, 7 o'clock right here to introduce.
So we had the chance to keep the same rate.
It depends on what the town, all the increase, you have to do them collectively. So it's the town, the county, the schools. Once they're all figured out, then you'll know what the new tax rate is.
You don't want to keep the
The
same.
town is just the one portion.
You don't want to keep the same rate we have now.
Yeah, you
After the reval, you don't want 12%.
Yeah, because, I know that you try to balance saying that we're going to bring it down, whatever. But the way I see it, you were increased 4 times the value of the house. Are we going to decrease 4 times the rate?
Theoretically, that should be.
Again, yeah, that's, well, we can't, unfortunately, we can't talk, we would love to talk in absolutes. We'd love to stand here and say, absolutely, this will be a tax rate, and absolutely, we can't talk in absolutes because there's so many factors out there we don't know. We don't know what it's going to be. We don't know what the inspections will be until, let us get in there and inspect them, just, you know.
That everything is evaluated depending on the value of the house.
Right, we can just go by what it should be.
Just to look the value of the house. But the town has to work on with the rate of the tax.
Correct.
That's the question is. All right, thank you.
I have an easy question.
Thank you.
How are you going to combine the real market value with your access, whatever you're doing now of the house? For example, my house, I bought it for $3,000 8 years ago. Value market, Zillow, my bank went last year is $180,000. My taxes has increased about $2,000 in the 8 years. How are you going to take in consideration the market to do?
As Neil mentioned earlier, we study the market for a 2-year period. So we're going to look at what homes, what all properties sold for in the borough for the prior 2 years. We're going to most heavily weight the sales that occur closest to October 1st of this year. And we're going to determine, using those sales, what an accurate market value for your home is. So it's not going to have anything to do with what you paid for it 8 years ago.
Should I think that the market value of the houses in Roselle is going to go up? Because obviously the access of the house, 90% will go up. So that means that the values of the house will go up after that. It's a good thing in that way because sometimes I just want to walk away from my house. I cannot sell it because I had to pay more than what the value is right now. So it's just a little concern about that mix of the new assessment evaluation that you're doing with the real value of the house.
It should be the value of the house. They should be the same thing. The revaluation number should be your market value. That's what we're aiming for. What's a full and fair market value of your home? What could you sell it for as of October 1st, 2015? That's our job, to determine that number. And we're going to use 2 years of sales data to get there. You're welcome.
I just want
clear, I'm trying to get my head around all this. This really boils down to not how much your house has gone up, it's how much your house has gone up relative to everyone else in terms of a percentage. If the town average is 300% increase since '81, the person whose house went up 270% would see a net decrease, and the person who went up 330% would see a net increase.
Exactly.
So what you're really worried about is just what you've done in relation to everyone else, not how much your home has gone up since 1981. Because if everyone's home went up the same exact percentage, then we'd all pay the same exact amount of taxes. If you just tripled your amount and you thirded the tax rate, you guys wouldn't be doing the job. We would all just agree to pay the same exact amount of taxes right now. So that's what it is. It's how much you've gone up relative to everyone else.
Your tax impact is,
The
yes.
tax impact, right? Well, that's what most of us.
Right.
We don't care about the number on the paper. We care about the tax.
I understand. I care about the number on the paper because let's say we say your house is worth $250,000 and you agree with us, but your taxes went up. As Gail stated earlier, that you can't appeal that.
Right.
So it's our job is to collect data to determine what your house is actually worth. We understand that because it's used for tax purposes, you're interested in the tax impact of that, and you're thinking along the right lines.
That's right. So, I mean, the vendor section, if it underperformed the rest of the town since 1981, we'd actually see a decrease in taxes. If the vendor section outperformed the rest of the town since 1981, we'd see a net increase in taxes. Same thing for Colfax Manor. That's basically the way it's, if they outperform the rest of the town, then they're going to outpay. And then the second question is very specific, but solar panels are not, you're not allowed to assess anything higher for homes with solar panels.
No.
Okay.
We note them, but we don't assess them.
Yeah, that's
Right.
the
I just wanted to, thank you.
Okay, I have a few topics here I want to, speak on. Okay. First is that I'm a very nervous person, okay? But, okay, I heard a few topics, like the first gentleman who came up here, and then some other people. About the first one was that, I'm understanding that if the homeowner doesn't let the inspector inside the house, just lets the outside be checked, automatically the taxes are gonna go up. Well, that's what I understood. And that's what most people are afraid, and I'm afraid of. Now, the other thing, well, we said no, right?
No.
But what's to assure us that that's not gonna happen? There's no assurance of that, right?
If you let us into your home, you'll get an accurate assessment. That's what I said first. You let us in, we'll see what's inside the house, and then we can appraise it fairly.
But then what's that guarantee me that, let's raise up the taxes anyway? Okay?
If your assessment's where it should be, then the taxes are where they should be. It all goes in line. If your assessment, if you let the inspectors in, they do their inspection, they know correctly what you have, then your assessment's correct. You need to just be concerned about your assessment. Again, the taxes are based on a tax rate, which changes every year. Your assessment will stay your assessment, but the tax rate changes. So as long as your assessment is correct, that's the bottom line number that everyone needs to be concerned about. You look at your assessment, is that correct? Again, you can't concern yourself with the tax rate because the tax rate is something that's, something that's struck later on in the year, and, there's not much we can do about that.
Okay, well, it's wrong. Because now, I've been here in Roselle Park 7 years. 6 or 7 years. Okay. Our taxes back then were 7,000. This year they just raised it again. I'm at 9,000 something.
But let me ask you a question.
Why? Because, before you answer the question,
No,
I haven't done anything to the house. I just put a little paint, sheet tile. Now, back to also another topic was that I heard you guys saying countertop, good countertop, good faucet. What does that have to do, raising the taxes? That has to do nothing with it. If, like another gentleman said over here, that the bathroom, the kitchen, the bedroom, same size. All you did was put a new door. Why is the taxes going up? That has nothing, well, I don't know, but most people, that has nothing to do with it. Why is the taxes going up? Like I said, 7,007 years ago, I'm at 9,200. All I did was make a little paint, everything else is the same. Each year it goes up, it goes up, it goes up, it goes up. My driveway is a mess, and it keeps on going up. Right? And I'm on a fixed income too, low income. And I mean, I haven't done any work, and each year I see going up, going up, going up.
But let me ask you a question. You're saying the taxes.
Yeah.
What about your assessment? Forget about the tax. But just forget about the taxes for 1 second. I'm just saying, bottom line, your assessment, not the taxes, but your assessment. Has your assessment gone up?
Assessment of
your assessment on your property. I don't know what your assessment is.
It's gone down twice. I did 2 assessments already recently. The house is...
It's gone up, your assessment?
No, down.
Down. Was it due to a tax appeal?
No, but if I have to, I'm going to do one.
Okay,
Because
but your assessment doesn't change. Your assessment, I'll tell you 2 ways your assessment changes. Okay? If you have a tax appeal, your assessment would go down if you're successful in tax appeal. Your assessment would go up if you do something on your property that warrants an added assessment. If you do something that says, okay, now your assessment goes up. Those are the only 2 ways, and besides a revaluation being done, your assessment won't change unless one of those 2 things happen. The tax rate, when you're talking about your taxes going up, that's a result of the tax rate that struck, the county gives us the tax rate, and the tax rate encompasses the county portion, municipal portion, the school portion. All those portions go in to make the tax rate. Does that go up every year? Yeah, the tax rate, but not your assessment. Your assessment, for the most part, has probably stayed the same unless A, you did a tax appeal and it went down, or B, you did some kind of added assessment that made it go up. Other than that, I would almost bet that your assessment has stayed the same probably for the last, I'm going to say, since 1981, yeah, pretty much.
So you're telling me like next year I'll be paying 10, 12,000?
I don't
Why?
Well, I don't know what the tax, I have no control over the tax, we don't know what the tax rate is.
Okay, and now, example, people in Livingston, they have much more land, much bigger houses, and they're paying much less than some people here in Roselle Park. Why? Because it's not right.
I can't.
Every town, every county, every school has different budgets, and that's what impacts the amount of the tax that you're going to pay.
Well then, okay, like you said then, Livingston has a much better school, has much better things, and they're paying lower taxes. Roselle Park does not have that, and we're paying high taxes.
Again, everybody has the same budget. I mean, everybody has a different budget, and so spend money.
So you're saying either you pay cheap, you pay more and more and more, or get out? Is that what you're saying, right?
I'm not saying.
That's what I'm understanding. Each year, like I said, 7 years I start with 7,000, and I'm doing things in the house, and each year goes up and up and up. And I'm pretty sure and another thing about that thing about nobody, like you guys don't know how many bathrooms or how many bedrooms or whatever. That's not true. Because when the house is sold, they have pictures of inside the house, and you guys can look it up and everything, and it's there. And I
have records, yeah, and I say that. I have records. If you were to give me your property, I could pull a property record card and say, my property record card for 1981 says you have 3 bedrooms, you have 1 bathroom, you have this and that. If you did have any work done, it wasn't put on the property record card, I don't know about it. But yes, I have records. But again, they're records from 1981. So, if stuff has been done in the house since 1981 and it hasn't been put on the property record card before me, then I have no record. That's.
So you guys are saying that when the real estate goes inside, the appraisal, whatever, they look at it and they put the house on the market? You're saying that,
I don't get those, I don't get real estate information.
and they do the actual value market of the value of the house, it's not true?
I'm not saying it's not true, but it's not my assessment. A real estate broker will say, go into your house and say, this is what your property's worth.
Which nowadays is much less than it was years ago.
But that's not what I say it's worth. It may not be. It may be the same as I say it's worth, it may not. I'm not a real estate broker, so I'm not assessing your property as a real estate broker would in order to get the best price for you. What I'm assessing your property is what is your property worth, not how much can you get for it. You know, a real estate broker is going to do that, absolutely. But this revaluation that we're doing, basically that is the goal. The goal is to say after this revaluation, this is your number on an open market sale, this is what you should be able to get for your property. Okay?
Okay, so then, years ago, it was worth 334. Now it's only worth two something. Why should I be paying $10,000, $12,000 on taxes now when it's way much less than it was years ago?
We're going to find out what it's worth. As soon as we have the inspections, that's when we're going to have a number. I can't tell you what it is right now until we have the inspections and the inspections are all done. That's when we're going to have a number for you.
And if a person doesn't let a person inside, automatically it goes up.
No, and again, I know we're stressing about that, and again, it's not meant to be a punishment because you didn't let us in. What they have to do is, you have to understand, if you don't let them into your house, okay, again, they don't know what you have in there. Is it fairer for them to assess you less than your neighbors, or to say, look, we don't know what's in there. We can't say you have less than you have. So this is by looking at the house and by doing, maybe checking my property record cards as to what it is. And again, my cards are from 1981. I don't know. All they're going to say is, look, based on other houses, maybe this is what is in this house. And then you're going to get that. You're going to get that.
Right, well, just one last question. What's guarantee me if I let somebody in there, it's not going to go up another 1,000 a year? And it's the same thing that's in there.
We can't make any. There's no guarantees we're going to stand up here and make you. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, I tried one appeal already and I was shut down. If the test go up again, I'm going to go all the way with an appeal because it's wrong.
And that's your right. That's your absolute right.
Each year it goes up. I haven't done anything to the house. It's the same. No addition, no nothing. I mean, what do you do?
Even if you have the review process and you're disgruntled with it, you don't agree with it, you have the ability. Every year, everybody gets a little notice of assessment cards. You'll get that, and then if you disagree with the value that they put on, you can appeal that as you always have the opportunity to every year.
I did that 2 years ago and I didn't get anywhere.
Sir, we let some other people. Thank you.
Other than the door knocker you're going to leave when you're going around the neighborhoods, is there a timetable or a schedule that, like, say you'll be in this area these weeks or something, so you can look out for that, you or your group or your team?
We don't post that. We don't post that for security reasons, you know. Right, we don't want to let the whole world know inspectors will be in this neighborhood at this time.
So you only know with the door knocker or your neighbor?
Right, but we let the police know where we're going to be. So the police department knows which inspectors I have in which neighborhoods. And they carry that letter around along with the IDs and the number for the police department if you want to call and verify that the guy is who he says he is, that he's one of my inspectors. But we don't publicize, you know, to the general public what areas we're in and when, for security reasons.
Oh.
You can invite somebody to pretend they're an inspector and just start walking around. You don't want that.
Right, because I remember when somebody came around, I thought it was 82, so maybe I'm wrong, but I didn't let them in the house because I had, you know, like a young child there, and I didn't really know what it was about. And he stood out there and just wrote, I really didn't have, you know, nothing was done to the house. So are those the property cards you're talking about that would be on file at City Hall?
Well, yeah, those would be the property record cards. Yeah, but whatever I have up in my files, my property record card files, would be from whatever the last reval was, which 81, 82, whichever it was. You know, that's the information I have on the cards that are upstairs.
Right, and like what this gentleman said, if it was basically cosmetic, you're talking about the new, the modern, is that what that would fall into? Because if I've done nothing major, no new kitchen, no new bathroom, but just cosmetic and brought it up to, 1990 maybe, but is that falls into that category if it wasn't anything major? Like labeled as old, new, or?
That I would consider average, but it's all about, is your house worth more than somebody that didn't do that work? It's all about what does the market say, right? When we look at the sales data for 2 years, did houses with redone kitchens sell for more than houses without redone kitchens? If they did, then that's reflected.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Just a quick question. I'm so confused. Will this revaluation will help to lower my mortgage in some way? Thanks.
One has nothing to do with you.
Thank you. I have a question about, you said you're going to base it on comps and whether houses with redone kitchens sell better than houses without redone kitchens. How are you going to know, since you don't have that in property cards, and since you don't keep real estate information, how are you going to know which houses sold with redone kitchens and which houses sold without redone kitchens?
We're expecting those also to be done.
So you would, like in a neighborhood that the houses have been sold for 30 years, how would you figure it out? I mean, a
The
neighborhood
question
that's
was,
very
how are we going to
stable.
take those properties that did sell and compare?
Yeah.
The goal is to inspect all of the properties, so we inspect the property that sold and see that this one didn't have a new
But
kitchen.
how do you know if it had a new kitchen when it sold versus, because I have a neighbor that's been there less than 2 years that redone did everything. Okay, so when his house sold, it wasn't redone, but how were you going to know that? He would fall in that time period. How would you know whether it was redone
We're
or
going to
not
ask,
redone under that?
when we do the inspection, we're going to look and we're going to ask when it was done. And we have the date of sale, and we can ask when the kitchen was done.
If they tell you, because with the permits, they might be some. I mean, I think there's a number of people in Roselle Park that probably do their own work and may be worried about permit issues. So, and that's question number one. Question number two, you're saying that houses are assessed at about 27% of their value, and you're saying that the median is probably 70,000 because it's between the 60 and 80 range. That's saying that the median sales fair market price of a house in Roselle Park would be $259,900, I think is what I came out with, almost $260,000. That would be great, but I don't see that as being accurate.
And again, it does depend on the assessment. I have assessments anywhere from 55,000 all the way up to 90,000. So it would depend on the actual, it would depend on each one individually, what this one.
I understand that, but just generally as a general concept, you're saying that the median is about 70,000, which would make the median fair market value if it's 27%, $259,900, I think, which seems to me out of sync with what Roselle Park has been selling for. So I'm just curious about that.
And another reason why the reval would be a wonderful thing.
I just wanted to say that I know it got a little personal about you as the assessors, as the parties doing this reassessment, but we all understand it's not personal, so I didn't appreciate all that. But it was something our town kind of lobbied for, so everyone's suddenly wondering what it's about. They ad nauseum lobbied for this, and we kind of went along with it. But nonetheless, it is what it is. But just to make it clear, because I know there was a lot of redundancy about things, but the record card is available for anybody who wants to go from 1981. That's what our taxes are based on. The record card that exists.
The assessment, yeah.
That exists in Mr. Endler's old office and your office, although, you have to go on a Friday, whatever, and get it, but that's what our taxes are based on, right? Presently, even though it's an exorbitant tax rate, I guess it's just a hard-working kind of blue-collar town. So I think everybody would agree, we pay a high tax rate for what it is, for the lack of industry, etc., but we do pay a high tax rate.
And what I understand from you is, and when I asked you the time I came there, is that, and from the various redundancy here, is that, in other words, you keep talking about the current market value. Well, thank God we didn't do the reassessment in 2007 or 2008, because I think a lot of people here, what they're talking about is that they bought their house then. And also they're talking about that, maybe the tax, they're in a, they're in a shortfall at this point, just like the town is. That's why they're doing this. The town is trying to make up for a loss of income to do with tax appeals, right? So that's why we're doing this. In the bottom line, they want to make back the money that they lost on tax appeals. But to keep referring to as if you were realtors, and you're going to come in, like this gentleman said, and assess what's modern, not modern, and, let's just say he wanted to update his kitchen up to the 90s. It sounds to me like you're assessing, like a realtor, what it's worth based on various nuances in their house, such as if they have marble countertops or not. It's like you're assessing it as if you are realtors. Am I correct on that?
We're appraisers. That's what appraisers do.
Right.
We tell you what something's worth. Yeah.
Right.
And just to, excuse me, just to get to the comment on the lost money from appeals, you're not going to get that back, and this process is not to recoup that.
No, well, you can only go
It's to,
forward. You
it's
can't
to
go
stop
backwards.
it from
No,
happening
I'm
in the
referring
future.
to in the future.
Yes, you don't have to bond for that money when you give refunds. The town has to pay interest on that. So it's to stop that bleeding.
No, well, I'm not quite sure what you mean. I'm saying going forward, they're trying to
They're not going to
make
get
up a
any extra money.
shortfall of what could happen the next year, or the next year, or the
Well,
next
they're
year.
trying to prevent having to give refunds.
But
in order to,
yeah, I got you. But in actuality, because you keep referring to the 1981, but you certainly, the tax rate is exorbitant. And I guess it's all about recalibrating, in essence. Because there would be no way, when you keep referring to current market value, and she's referring to, well, your house is only valued at $65,000, there would be no way in this universe, in a parallel universe, that anybody could pay the tax rate of $12 on 240. So of course it has to be recalibrated. I'm not quite sure. After much redundancy, I think maybe people understand now, but that was and the subjectiveness, I guess, of the assessment bothers me. But maybe you have the option of appeals. Because if you're going to put the assessed value as a realtor, it sounds to me, on a particular house, it just seems, it's all about, and like you say, go back 2 years in terms of the current market value. But still, it's all very subjective to me, but I guess maybe that's just how it works. And then the tax rate is somehow aligned into how it all pans out. In the end, I guess it comes down to recalibrating to make it affordable, but not too exorbitant. Because right now, it's quite exorbitant. And I guess that's what people are objecting about. But just so everybody knows, you can obtain whatever you're being charged, because right now, it's not just a, arbitrary figure in the air that you're paying. You're paying based on that 1981 assessment. And you're paying an exorbitant tax rate. So it's not just, any old thing. That's all I have.
Thank you.
I came kind of late into the conversation, but I had a question. For example, what's the tax rate here now? 12%?
12.907.
Okay, so if in 1981 the house was appraised at $65,000, right?
But that wasn't a tax rate back in 1980.
Okay, so the tax rate is now 12.907. And your reassessment value is now $140,000. That means automatically the taxes will go up because the rate is higher than back in the 90s.
What's gonna happen is the assessments go up, the rate will go down. So the rate right now is 12.907. The assessments are gonna go up. your assessment at $60,000,
I'm gonna go double that.
or double, triple, whatever your house is worth. Obviously, your house is worth more than $60,000. You know, it's probably worth more than $120,000. I don't know. I don't know your house. I don't, you know, I'm just saying. Whatever it is, the assessment goes up wherever the fair market value of your house is, and then the tax rate goes down.
So instead of increasing 12-point-something% each year, now it's gonna increase, let's say 7-something% if you lower that.
Well, whatever the tax rate becomes, it changes every year. The tax rate doesn't stay the same every year. Unless you have a revaluation or reassessment, your assessment on your property stays the same, just like your assessment.
But the assessment stays the same.
But the tax rate changes.
Okay, so it's, I guess in sometimes it's the opposite. The tax rate is the same and the assessment is the one that changes.
No, unless they're going through a reval, they would have this process where the assessment would change and the tax rate is going to change. But generally, the assessment stays the same and it's the tax rate that increases.
Something else I wanted to comment on is basically, I know that the city gets majority of its revenues from the property taxes that we pay. Has any of you thought of any other resources that can be used to kind of help the homeowners with the burden of property taxes? I understand that basically in New Jersey is the way, I mean, we have the highest taxes in the nation almost. But just because what's happening in the news now that people are traveling and going away from New Jersey because of the cost of living and how expensive it is, if you look at the salary, you know, we are a middle class town here. There are many people that are moving away of this town and losing their properties because they cannot afford the high taxes sometimes. So I'm just trying to see if you guys as a community have decided of any other ways that you can actually help the homeowners with the burden of, you know, property taxes. Meaning any other.
The purpose of this thing is just, I know you came late, is not to get more tax out of people. You know, and I think every town, council, across the whole state tries their best to do the best with their budget.
That's what they're saying, but in reality.
Well, things cost money, so it's, you know, everyone does their best. So.
Yeah, okay. Let's see. I mean, I guess it's something that needs to happen in. We have to work together towards accomplishing our goals, and we all want to have a nice town and a nice school system. We all have to pay for that, but it's basically whether or not we can afford it. Being with the economy, people don't have the same job that they used to have years ago and things of that sort. So that's the only thing I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a good question. I travel a lot for work, and I have a two-family house. My tenants are a little finicky about having people come in, so they'd like me to be there. Just to get ahead of it, can I just schedule you guys on tomorrow, call you up, and have you guys come? Just to get ahead of the game?
No, we're going to do the town in a specific order. You have a tax map in town, essentially municipalities divided into a tax map. We do one tax map page at a time.
Okay.
So it depends on where you fall, you know, what your block and lot is and how much work I have dispatched at a given time. What we do ask for the landlords to do is just make your tenants aware that somebody's going to come by and they can just take the card from us.
Okay.
And give it to you, call us, and we'll come out and do it.
And then give us a look.
Have you guys do one trip instead of just coming back, you know, doing it twice.
In theory, I understand what you're saying, but that'll potentially lead to many others. So the first visit is unannounced.
Okay.
We go, and if it's not good for your tenant, they choose not to let us in, just take that card, you call us, and we'll come out the second time.
Okay.
We'll be in your neighborhood then. That way it's easier for us because we're in that area working.
In the unlikely event they did let you in, you guys would have to make a second trip to come back for my place, right? Like, how would that work? Because I would say I'm not home.
You're one of the two.
Yeah, I live downstairs, yeah. That's what I'm saying, like, it would be better to schedule it just so you guys can just not do a lot at once.
Just tell them not to let us in and give you the card and we'll come back and do both.
That's fine. The other question I had is, I have a 35 by 110 lot. I share a driveway with my neighbor. He has 80%, I have 20% according to the survey I did. How does that affect it at all?
Oh, is it an easement? Is there an easement on the property?
What's that? You mean like
A right of way or something?
A dedicated easement printed on the tax map?
I don't know, there was something signed like 1926, my lawyer.
Let the inspector know in case the easement doesn't show up on the tax map so that we know about it.
Okay.
I had a house with a shared driveway, and when I went to sell it, it was an issue. I get what you're saying, let the inspector know.
Now, the other thing real quick is, when you look at the taxes, and I go online, you can look it up, it has a land value and improvement value. Is this going to change both or just the improvements?
Both.
Okay, so like, because my lot, I guess is 3,800 square feet, as opposed to somebody's 5,000. Technically, I should be less land value than they are. Right?
If they're near each other, yes, within the same neighborhood.
Well, I'm on a main road, so, I mean, I don't know if that affects it or either.
There's different factors. It's not just raw square footage. For example, the frontage or the width of your lot is generally worth a little bit more than excess land in the back, right? People like the width, it keeps you further away from your neighbors, all that kind of stuff. So there's a formula, but you know, in theory, if your lots were the same, they should be assessed the same.
Okay, yeah, I was just wondering. And one other question, the guy from the county, what portion of county taxes is our total amount that we pay?
Good question, I don't know off the top of my head. Generally, it's somewhere between the 15 and 20% mark, so I'm going to say somewhere in there, yeah.
Not off topic, but related to taxes, that thing they built, that Gallatin building, they spent $9 million on, that catering hall? Clubhouse. Yeah, whatever that is, it's almost like, I mean, the county keeps raising the taxes, but why would they build something like that and then still come to us for money?
That's a question you'd have to go to the freeholders and ask. I don't have the answer to that one.
I'm just saying.
With my town, I'm happy about that also, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, like, I think nobody here is really happy at any taxes are highest in the nation, and the county is going to like businesses they shouldn't be doing. So stick to parks and paving roads. But, all right, thank you.
No problem, thank you.
I have to say, for me personally, I'm really glad we had this meeting, and I really agree with the mayor. This, at least I feel, will alleviate some of the rumors that have been going around. My final question, though, is what's to say after you come, you've reassessed, everything's set, we have our tax rate, that you don't then take those tax records and give them to the building department and say, these people now have 3 bathrooms, they didn't have 3 bathrooms, let's pull permits, and let's face it, we could use the money on fines.
Hold on to that thought.
I'm just thinking
No,
money-wise.
I'm going to answer that. I'm going to answer that. Well, I'm not going to answer it. Ladies and gentlemen, the gentleman up here is Rich Huxford. He's my borough attorney. Okay, he is the person that the mayor and council go to for legal advice. And to answer your question, I'm going to let Mr. Huxford give you the answer. Okay, so this should put a lot of answers
Rumor mongers.
Rumor mongers done. So Rich Huxford is my borough attorney, and I trust him.
Thank you, Mayor. It's good as how are you? Answer the question first. I mean, as these gentlemen here and the tax assessor said, the purpose is just to get the information. She's going to take that information from the gentleman. Pretty bluntly, they don't care what you have. They're just trying to get the information to show what you have is reflected in the property. Let something go to Gail, she's going to take, and she pretty much says she's not going to take that anywhere else, just update the cards. Putting all that to the side, there's a 1-year statute of limitations in the code and in the case law that says that any type of code violation, including not getting permits, goes back 1 year from when the work was done. So if something was done 20 years ago, that's certainly beyond the statute of limitations. Now, obviously, if work was done less than a year, can't comment on there may be a potential violation, but based on the assertions given by Gail here, I don't think that's going to happen. Moreover, I can tell you that within the last couple of years, when there has been some type of violation with regards to not getting permits or inspections, the code officer at the time, and I'm sure the practice is going to continue, is basically to advise people, get the inspections, get the permits, because it's more of a safety issue. It's not so much to get the funds or whatnot. It's to make sure the work that was done in the house was done properly. Because obviously the town wants to make sure that the residents are safe and the work was done properly. That's the purpose behind that. So anything beyond a year, you should be in fine. Anything less than a year, there could be an issue possibly. Based on the assertions here, I don't think there's going to be an issue. But again, there may be a small fee to get that permit or get that inspection. But again, it's not so much, as long as, if that becomes an issue and if that's done, I don't think there's going to be any fine issued. And again, it's more of a safety issue for the residents to make sure the work was done.
Thank you for addressing that, because that has been the bigger rumor that I've heard about this, that they're coming in so that they can charge you more for the work you did that you didn't get permits for, so that the town can make money. And you know, it's all about the rumor.
Yes, I understand that, and that was one of the things that was talked about 2 years ago, okay? And that's why when people ask me, I said, I don't have the answer to the questions. And some of the information that I did give out, I was wrong. That's the reason why professionals are here. That's the reason why we're doing this, okay? And just to get back to what Mr. Huxford said, the permits, okay, they're there for you, and for you. They're not there for us. Because believe me when I'm telling you, if you come and look at the budget, the amount of money that we get bringing in from permits is minimal. Minimal. It wouldn't be enough to probably to pay the parking lot. But the permits are there for you folks to make sure that the work is done legally and done right. Because what's going to happen is, God forbid, you get a fire or something happens in that house, and the insurance companies know it because they change the wiring and the color. They come in with the date, they're going to say, Mr. Hokinson, you put a 3rd floor on your house. I see that the wiring. Do you have any permits for this? No, I did not. Well, they're going to go back to the construction department and say, hey, this is such and such. Was there any permits pulled for 318 Hemlock Street to do the dormer on this house? No. You know what they're going to say? See you in court. The permits are not for us. The permits are there to protect you, the homeowner. You make sure you're not getting shabby work and you're getting it done right. Because God forbid if something does happen, you are protected. That's the reason why the permits are. And trust me, folks, come look at the budget.
It wasn't permits, it was fines.
Fines.
I was upset about.
Right, but it's, again, come look at the budget. For what we pull in permits, it's minimal. It's minimal. And believe it or not, Roselle Park was one of the cheapest towns to get permits. And basically, when you get your permit, you have a right as a homeowner to do certain things to save the cost. And we don't go around, you know, look, we all have contacts. We had a gentleman that was, you know, a mason. Yeah, look, he gave to me a cost. So my permit, when I put down, it's going to be, it cost me $2,000. When that permit is done, then after the work is done, then the final permit goes to this young lady here that will assess that on your up-to-date card. So now, 34 years later, when we get maybe their grandkids to come in and redo another reval, now it's up to date. So it's all in the numbers. And believe me, it's not here to, it's not here to penalize you. And I just want to refer one other thing. Taxes. Taxes. Everybody here says taxes, yes. But remember one thing, folks. We're only in charge of the municipal budget. We're not in charge of the school budget, which is 65% of your tax bill. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get everybody on the same playing field, that everybody has the fair share. So that's the reason why we're not going on a witch hunt. But I'm not going to say if your neighbor rats you out to the construction department that you may not get a fine. But again, get your permits, pull them, and that's it. That's it. So again, that's why we got my borough attorney here to tell you, you have 1 year, fine. The tax man from the county is here to tell you. I mean, enough. So,
and just on a personal note,
yeah.
are they going to note that my attic is a disaster? Is that going to be on my card? And I have a person I can blame for that, my teenager. He goes up there and he makes a mess. So, it's not me. I want that on the card. Thank you.
Tell the inspector.
Thanks, Gene. You just told everyone that, so it's going to be on Facebook tonight. Just as a point of information, maybe helps the process. There are websites that the state Division of Taxation, the state legislature, and the League of Municipalities has published over the years that you might want to consider putting on the website. Because I think after today, there'll still be more questions. I'll forward them to the municipal clerk if you want to include them on the website. They're very detailed. There's an FAQ on them. I think it'll go a long way to help out. Would it also be helpful, Gail, if folks that are anxious because they're not sure when the inspections are going to start, would it be helpful that they maybe get some of the comps? Take a look, or, if they're eager to try to get some information, take their assessed value, divide it by the ratio to get an idea of what the value is, and plus or minus maybe 15%, get a range. This way...
Which comps?
Comps of similar sold properties within the last 2 years within their neighborhoods. Because I'm just thinking, people are going to leave tonight and they're going to want to do something. So if they want to be proactive, if they want to get an idea of what their house is worth, because it's not, as the lady mentioned earlier, yeah, the general value is about 250, 260. But, a cape might be different from a buy level from...
The thing is, as far as the value, and people call all the time, especially when they're inquiring about appeals and such, and basically I do the formula, I tell them what the formula is, but basically it's you take your assessment, divide it by what our ratio is, which is 2750. So you take your assessment, 60, 70,000, whatever it is, divide it by 0.2750. That's at an average is where I'm placing, or with the assessment, is placing the value of your property. So if you do that, and I tell people, a lot of times I'll speak to them, they'll say, okay, well, what do you think about that? I think my house is worth more. Then don't file an appeal.
They don't talk to you about that.
So yeah, we didn't have this conversation. No, don't file an appeal.
But if I may jump in real quick, because some of the folks said, oh, I bought my house back in 07, 08, before the market changed.
Right.
But they're probably at an assessed value that was there prior to that.
The assessed value's been there since 1981.
So maybe to have something for them to do if they want to take the extra effort is to maybe do their own little research with doing the division of the ratio, get the value, and then just do some, either, realty.com.
Well, yeah, they could certainly...
They may come back and say, oh my God, actually my value is less, and when you come around, and when I go before, the hearing, I can at least have some information to share.
Well, yeah, they could certainly look at the sales that have happened in towns, and this is basically what I tell them also if they file an appeal. What they need to do is if they're going to submit comps, it's based on sales, happened in town, houses similar to yours, and I have to stress, similar to yours. We don't have many houses that are exact duplicates of another house. Try to get as close as you can, square footage wise, property size wise, age wise. If your house was built in 1989 and you're trying to compare it to a house built in 1939 that hasn't been updated, I'm saying that's not really a good comp. The best thing is to try to find houses similar to yours, same size, what it's sold for, and basically how it compares to your house. Make some adjustments and say, okay, well, my house has a deck, that doesn't have a deck, take that in consideration. My house has 3 bathrooms, that just has 2. Take that in consideration too. But sure, they could certainly try to do that and then see how it plays out once we have the inspections and see how close we all get to that.
I think it's important to remind the sales we're going to weight the most heavily haven't happened yet.
Correct. But again, just something that if someone wants to take the extra effort, they have something that they could possibly do to prepare themselves. The other question too is after tonight's meeting, do you have, or does Realty Appraisals have an email, a phone, some kind of, if people have questions, instead of you, Gail, getting hammered with a bunch of questions, does it go to you now?
Yeah, absolutely. Our website is realtyappraisal.net. It does have a very informative FAQ on it. It also has and there's going to be a link to it directly on your borough's website as well. But we have once it takes you over to our website, there's an FAQ there. There's a presentation, PowerPoint style presentation that says what is a revaluation, that explains the basics. And there's also current revaluations you can click on, check the status of the revaluation, and send us a message. It has like a CGI form. You can put your email in, ask us a question, send us a message, and our phone number's on there as well.
Okay, so, because the other question too was, and I agree with the gentleman, come into my house and come down, because I know the first time you're going to do your go-arounds, no one's going to be home. But is that information going to be available where I look on to the website and I can see sort of where you are?
No, look for the doorknob hanger.
Okay, when should I get worried if I don't see a door hanger within the next 30 days, 60 days? When should I start being concerned?
October 1st. Because we're going to do inspect. I'm serious.
No, wait. Hear me out. If you're going around, your initial inspectors are doing the unannounced, and you're putting door hangers on, the blue ones,
Yeah.
But let's say I don't see it, my neighbors don't see it, when should I call you to say, hey, by the way, have you been in my neighborhood? You know, because I haven't seen anything, sort of like,
You can
I'm
feel
just
free to
concerned that
call us
something
at
will blow away,
any time.
the weather, or something will happen, and.
Absolutely.
You know.
But say the worst thing happens. You never get a door tag, you don't think anyone came to your house, and you get a letter in the mail and it has an estimated value. You call us and we come out and do the inspection then. It changes nothing.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be preemptive.
I get it, but it changes nothing. Everybody that wants an inspection will get an inspection. Okay, it's our goal to get into every single house in town, as many as we can. We want to get the number right.
Right. Just following up on what the borough attorney said, you mentioned the case law regarding code violations. It brought up an interesting question in my head. What if the inspectors go out, they do an inspection, and they note that the property is a two-family, but on your records it's a one and zoned for one? How do you handle that? That case law does not apply in that case, right? It's an interesting question, because what value do you set? Do you set it at the two-family or the one-family?
Whatever it is.
Plus,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Whatever it exists as of October 1st, we're going out with a blank piece of paper. We don't know how it's going to be assessed. We're going to assess it for whatever's there on that date. It's a two-family.
Yeah, but now, because we ran into this problem years ago, about the whole issue of taxation, someone being taxed at a level that they weren't, like they were a two-family, I think they were taxed as a three, but they were originally actually a two, and there was some discrepancy there. This goes back before UBL, this way back. My concern is if you go to a home and you're seeing that it is a two-family and you're assessing it as a two-family, does that give the individual an automatic reason to say, well, I've been taxed as a two-family. It was inspected, but really they never got a variance for that two-family, and it should have been a one.
Okay.
Something for you to consider.
Yeah, I guess
think
at some
Rich
point.
said something before.
Thanks, Joe.
Mayor, if I could.
Sorry, I mean, just.
From a legal perspective, if it's categorized as a one family, but they're using it as a two family, past practice has normally been, at least for the last few years, has been, the zoning officer would say, you need to, or she would say, you need to get a zoning variance. We're going to give you X amount of time. If not, you run the risk of being in violation. And the violation may be issued. That would be up to the deputy code officer or the zoning officer. From that perspective only.
Okay.
In terms of the effect on taxes, I couldn't comment on that.
Yeah, it's not really the tax question, it's what's, like the property card or whatever that zone, you're going to have that information.
Right, well, yeah, they'll come back to me, I guess at some point,
And honestly, that's not fair for the folks that are.
No, and then this is all about, this is all about being fair, obviously. They'll come back, realty appraiser could come back to me and, and say, okay, these are the two families.
Yeah, we don't know what it's supposed to be. We just know
Exactly,
what we see
what they
when
find,
we go out
and that's-
there. And if it's a two-family, we use two-family comparables to value it. It's,
And then they could come back to me and say, well, these are the two families, and I could look at my property record cards, yep, wait a minute. No, I had that as a one unit.
Right.
All of a sudden it became a 2 unit. Then we may have to look into that further and say, okay, is there a resolution? Is there this, is there that? No. Then we have to start digging into it a little further, which is what I would do now, and say, okay, when did it become a two-family? Is there anything on record that it became a two-family? How many kitchens? Are there permits that another kitchen was put? Then we have to dig in a little deeper, as opposed to what I said before about them going in and saying, look, okay, this has 3 bathrooms, whatever it has, that's what it has.
Right, and it might help address an issue that's been a long, for decade issue, is illegal conversions that weren't done properly without variances. So, all right, thanks.
Thanks, Sean.
And just one other issue for Mayor, there would also, in time of sale, there may be an issue with the CO being issued for the two family. That would also have to be addressed. But just to,
Well, good.
the bottom line with regards to that issue, as along with the issue with rent taking inspection issues, the borough's main thing is compliance, not hitting people with fines, and we give ample opportunity for, if that situation arose, to address the situation with the land use board. If that's the case, Senator Gamble investigated it, and they would have an opportunity to go to the land use board without having any fines.
We're gonna, if it's all right, folks, these gentlemen and the young lady have a long ride home. So we're gonna let Carl be the last speaker for tonight. As soon as we find out from these gentlemen when the next meeting is, it will be posted on the website. The word will get out, Facebook, phones, word of mouth. So,
And also, if you have any questions, call my office. If it's a question that I can answer, if it's something that Realty Appraisal has to answer, or Rich or Chris, then I won't answer. I won't answer any question I can't. But if it's a question that I can answer, by all means, call my office, leave a message. I'm really good about getting back to people that leave messages. Even though I'm just here one day, I do monitor my email, I do monitor the phone, so I will do my best to get back to as many people as I can if you leave messages. Yes, Mr. Puccio.
Good evening.
Good evening.
When I was a deputy code enforcement officer here, in charge of property maintenance, there's roughly, in doing the job, I came across at least 35 vacant homes, abandoned homes. How are you going to address that as far as getting into them and assessing them to give them the proper value that they're going to be worked at? I know there's a house behind me that has been that's huge and has been vandalized, and things have happened inside the house where the ceiling's been pulled down, and pipes have been ripped out, the house is all locked up. There's property maintenance issues on it, but still, they still have X amount of rooms and X amount of bathrooms on record, and plus who knows what they did to those homes in the years, because they've just been abandoned for so long. So how does your company go about, do you get in touch with the bank, do you get in touch with the law firm, that when you're able to go in there, as a one of their representatives to let you in the house? I mean, because, we want to make sure that they're assessed at a fair value. Just because they're vacant doesn't mean that they could be worth that much less, where it's going to be a burden to everyone else.
It is my understanding the borough clerk has the information for all the abandoned houses, so it's my understanding that the officials would contact the borough clerk.
We've already mailed letters to all property owners. Whoever that property owner is, even if they're not there, they know this process is taking place. So it is the property owner's responsibility to allow us access to that property.
For most of the property owners, I know one property owner, he just packed his bags and went to Tennessee. I know another one packed his bags and went to Florida, so now it's the bank's involved, even though he's still a legal owner of the house. He's not there, they're not there.
If we can tell it's vandalized, we'll assess it that way, even if we can't get into it.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just want to thank everybody for coming out, and like I said, as soon as we have another date planned, it'll be posted. Thank you.